Someone shouts sharply at the young lady, moving straight towards her, and at that moment the girl clearly realizes an existence where there is a constant lack of money and strength is beginning to frankly suffocate her. Added to this is her origin, which even prohibits her from entering the capital, and all of this together completely exhausts her to the limit. Without a second's hesitation, the girl rushes at the monster and effortlessly cuts through its flesh, reaching the core hidden under the skin. After this, the creature freezes completely, and the young lady merely curses in irritation. This girl's name is Ella Rain, and she is a monster hunter. She suddenly clearly remembers that just 3 years ago she was an ordinary otaku living in South Korea. After this, she hits the monster with force again, and mentally wonders what the hell she's even doing in this damned place. The girl angrily declares that she hates all of this, because she doesn't even have a single chance to see her favorite. Then she wonders how she even managed to get here. The other monster hunters exchange glances and whisper, calling the girl crazy and noting that she's at it again. Ella comes to the realization that she is inside a novel she once read, and the title of this work is The End of the Abyss. All readers can be roughly divided into several categories. Some follow the plot, while others are interested in the book's universe itself. And for others, the main thing is pleasure. After finishing the novel, the girl realized she was one of those who read for the main character's looks. She looked at the beautiful cover of the novel and thought about how perfect everything looked on it. And it was thanks to this guy that she managed to reach the last page. Gerard Asalanos is the protagonist of the novel The End of the Abyss and the crown prince of his world. This guy tried every possible way to win the heart of the Duke's daughter named Athelia, although his methods could hardly be called ordinary. He cold-bloodedly eliminated everyone who was dear to the main character, and then, by comforting her after the grief she had experienced, he achieved the desired disposition. Simply put, he was a handsome asshole, and even if he was a complete lunatic, it didn't take away from his attractive appearance, because in any case, he was just a character in a book. The girl was curious about what feelings she would experience if she saw him in person, and whether he would be even more attractive in reality. Now the young lady understood that she should have expressed herself more carefully then, because her thoughts did not at all indicate a desire to enter this world and see everything with her own eyes. After this, the girl asks the worker what exactly he just said. The guy explains that this is a center for selling monster paraphernalia, and it is under the control of the imperial family, so speaking in such a harsh tone is not accepted here. However, the girl only angrily throws the horn on the floor and asks how many of these trophies she brought back. Kevin replies that there are 3 horns, to which the girl points out that that is exactly it. There are 3 of them. She then asks if they are really only going to give 3 gold pieces for them, or if he is simply suggesting that she go into eternal sleep. She also notes that the number of monster hunters has apparently doubled, and the number of those who bring back first-level monster attributes without a single scratch has increased 6-fold. The girl adds that he knows perfectly well that on the black market, she would get 3 gold coins for one such thing. But Kevin bluntly states that the black market is strictly prohibited in their country, and even if it is a first-level monster, it is only a whore, whose horn is rarely used, so it is bought at a minimal price. The young lady notes with a grin that he has a real talent for spouting complete nonsense, and whether she understands correctly that monsters are now judged not by their danger, but solely by demand. Then, by this logic, the price of Idol's skin could be increased 5-fold, as demand for it is high. The young man is at a loss for words, and the people in the room begin to whisper that the girl is at it again. The man then asks him to speak more quietly, so as not to attract unnecessary attention. Meanwhile, the main character wonders if Kevin really cares that he's a level 5 monster, since he's in high demand. Following his logic, it's more profitable for her to go after a monster that's easier to catch and sell for more, while there'll be no one left to hunt level 1 monsters. The girl asks where exactly she's going wrong, but the guy remains silent. She addresses him again, causing him to flinch and say he's listening. At that very moment, the girl presses the weapon to the guy, making it clear that all hunters shouldn't be considered brainless fighters who only know how to swing a blade. So if he dared to say something like that to her again, she would not hesitate to show him what a real monster was like. The girl then asks how much exactly he promised to pay for the horns. The guy replies that he was talking about 7 gold coins. Afterwards, the main character takes them and remarks that it's simply wonderful. As she leaves, she adds that she really likes the place. That's why she decides to become a regular customer here for a long time, because it's impossible to negotiate normally with people from the black market. The young man bids her farewell until they meet again, and the girl leaves. Outside, she runs into her colleague. It's a monster hunter named Mariah Wayne. The guy immediately asks how much she managed to save. She calmly replies that she received 7 gold coins, after which her colleague screams, declaring that this cannot be true, since he was only given 3. Rain explains that the reason is that he agrees to everything they try to foist on him. But the boy objects, saying it has nothing to do with the imperial family. Then the young lady asks what the big deal is and why it matters to her. Rain also wonders if it's strange that in this world they insist on dividing everyone into classes, even though at heart everyone remains ordinary. And if they need admiring glances and respect so much, then they should send reinforcements to the border. Perhaps they'll only come to their senses when monsters start taking over the entire country. After that, Wayne only remarks on the lady's peculiar jokes. He also reminds her that she has forgotten that the palace is protected by Aselanos' blessing, so no monster can penetrate it. The girl replies that it could very well be a person like her. In the end, she still won't even be able to meet her favorite, so why did she move there in the first place? At this rate, her fantastic love for him could completely fade away without seeing him, even though the mere sight of him would cause her feelings to flare up again, like a phoenix from the ashes. The guy asks what that even means. The young lady replies that he doesn't need to know that, because she's not in the mood today, so she'll just go home and eat some meat. However, the young man asks her to wait, and realizes that she behaves the same way every time. They've known each other for 3 years now, but he still doesn't understand what she keeps talking about. At this time, someone in the palace comes to His Highness and asks whether he really summoned him. It turns out he's a duke named Clive Winterlock. The emperor announces he has a mission for this man. The girl, meanwhile, realizes that she spent several days sick, locked in a cramped one-room apartment. She constantly tried to keep her mind under control, feeling the heat leaving her body. When the girl barely opens her eyes, a man immediately addresses her. He asks if she can hear him. Rain, shocked, realizes she's in a completely unfamiliar place, and a bald old man is sitting next to her. She suddenly gets up from the bed and, looking around, asks where she is and whether everything that is happening is a dream. But the man is surprised at what she is talking about, because he hasn't seen her for 4 days, which is why he was very worried and decided to come. He admits he thought she'd already been devoured by monsters, and she's shocked to realize the word feels both familiar and foreign. She understands its meaning, but it all just doesn't make sense to her. After this, the young lady gets out of bed, and the man advises her to lie down a little longer and recover. However, the girl immediately jumps up and runs, thinking that all this is just a deception and an illusion, because this place cannot be the universe of the novel called The End of the Abyss. Suddenly, a huge monster appears in front of her, and she is confused and tries to understand what kind of creature it is. The monster throws the girl back with one blow, and she realizes that she feels real pain, which means this is definitely not a dream. Rain doesn't understand what to do, because she needs to somehow stop the monster, and at that moment she notices an axe next to her. Then her gaze falls on the red crystal on the monster's forehead. The girl grabs an axe and strikes. After some time, when it starts to rain, the young lady, looking at her reflection, wonders who she is now. At that moment, someone runs up to her and asks if she's okay, but she suddenly grabs the guy by the clothes. She demands to know the name of the crown prince of this state. The blue-haired boy admits that she frightens him, but the girl orders him to reveal the heir's name immediately. Then he says his name is Gerard Aselanos and asks to let him go. The young lady does so, after which she wonders in surprise if this is really that handsome bastard. The guy is indignant, asking if that's really how she addresses His Highness. He also doubts her sanity and warns her to watch her tongue if she wants to live longer, as such words could get an ordinary hunter executed. The girl just sighs heavily, thinking that something devilish is happening, because there are unreal monsters around, which she has only seen in games, and this name definitely belongs to the world of The End of the Abyss. After this, she notices that this could really drive her crazy, because she didn't intend to see all this in real life. Now she thinks that whoever sent her here could at least have done their job properly, since she was transferred into the body of a person whose name is not even mentioned in the novel. If she were some aristocrat from the imperial family, she would calmly satisfy her fanatical love in close proximity. Then the young lady wonders who this girl was, because the villagers know almost nothing about her. The guy with blue hair claims that she just appeared in this village recently. The girl realizes that her life has completely gone wrong, after which she forcefully strikes the bell against the stone. She breaks through the barrier and mentally challenges, wondering whether the revered lord actually exists. If he really does exist, then let him prepare his beautiful neck and await her arrival. The girl also realizes that no matter how skilled a hunter a person is, it is impossible to destroy monsters alone. Each species has special abilities, and very often they attack people not individually, but in whole packs. In places where there were no aristocrats capable of sending troops against the monsters, hunters appeared who themselves opposed them, protecting their loved ones, and on the western border, the girl saw how they covered each other's rear. After a little while, she was already dragging some kind of monster, and one of the people was surprised and claimed that it was a first-level creature, and how could she have managed to deal with it alone. The main character asked again if he was level 1, to which the man was even more surprised and wondered how she had managed to catch him at all. The girl replied that she herself didn't really know, because he seemed to have gone completely limp when she hit him with her axe. A little later, the young lady wondered why she had said that at all, since she usually always acted alone so as not to attract unnecessary attention. But at some point, everything went completely wrong, and now someone was offering the lady a one-on-one fight with him. She thought with irritation about who would have guessed that such a ridiculous rule would appear because of this old man. The man claimed that whoever defeated Ella Rain in a one-on-one duel would be allowed to go hunting alone in the Antoni forest. Now the young lady felt how angry this made her, and at the same time she mentally asked the Lord to forgive her for the words spoken in the heat of the moment. But since it had already happened, she mentally turned to him and asked if he could take everything back. The girl asked again and assured that she would be obedient, while her opponent screamed, wondering if she was ignoring him. The lady understood that she would have to endure it, because in front of her was only a person who could not simply be cut in half. Then someone else sarcastically asked if this coward was really the Ella Rain everyone was talking about. After all, she looked so weak that she could hardly skin even a low-level monster. The guy also egged her on to attack him, and the girl immediately realized that he looked like a former city gangster who, having heard about the profitable monster hunt, simply dragged himself here. So the young lady said that he was right, after which the guy fell silent and then asked in confusion what exactly she was talking about. Rain explained that he was absolutely right since she couldn't even skin idle, and someone present immediately asked if that meant she was simply too lazy to do it. After this, the guy stated that he was told to defeat her so that he could get into the forest, to which the girl replied that all this was complete nonsense. She added that he had no one to ask permission from, and he could just go there, since no one would stop him. The boy asked in surprise if this was true, since he had felt from the very beginning that something didn't add up, and the girl explained that the forest had no owner and he could safely step into it. Rain also asked who told him that he needed to defeat her, and it became clear that the person was just playing a joke on him, which made the guy angry at the old man, and she noticed that it was not for nothing that he was smirking then. The young man thanked Rain for telling the truth, and the girl replied that she was glad to help. After this, the guy said goodbye and left, and the young lady mentally said goodbye to him forever. When he was out of sight, the girl stopped smiling and thought what a fool he really was. After all, he was so stupid that he was going to go into the forest alone, and at that moment a guy with blue hair approached Rain. He cried out that if this man went alone, he might well fall into eternal sleep. The young lady replied that such fools were usually impossible to convince, so it was better to say goodbye to them on a good note. She also added that she didn't like his face, to which the guy remarked that this was the real reason. Then he grabbed his forehead and screamed, wondering how many times something like this had happened. He rushed after the fool, shouting at him to stop, and the young lady only sighed heavily. After some time, she returned home and realized that today had been surprisingly easy, and that idiot was probably saved by Wayne, so she has nothing to worry about. However, then the main character noticed the village headman on the western border near her house. She was a little surprised and noted that she didn't particularly want to meet him. After all, the mercenaries he sent came to her without any breaks, and the man asked if she was talking specifically about mercenaries. He also asked if she meant those young boys who were going to go into the forest alone. Then the girl asked when he was going to cancel this annoying rule. And isn't he waiting for the moment when she actually puts someone into eternal sleep? To which the man replied that she wouldn't do that. The young lady thought how this old man irritated her, and he declared that she irritated him too, and the girl realized that if it were not for her conscience, which insisted on the need to respect her elders, she would have confessed to him long ago. The man suggested discussing it later and said that he had come to her with a request. The young lady was surprised at why he had suddenly become so serious and suggested that he act as usual, also inquiring whether the flying monsters had appeared in the Baron's estate again. After that, she stated that she was not interested in the details, and that as payment he should get rid of this rule. However, the man said that this time it was about something else, and addressed the lady by her full first and last name. He also stated that she should stop hunting monsters. Meanwhile, the Duke apologized to His Highness for his absence from the previous meeting due to personal reasons. The man replied that it was okay, since his close friend had died then, and expressed his condolences, to which the brunette thanked him. After this, the Crown Prince suggested getting down to business, reminding him that an important issue had been discussed at the previous meeting, on which he wanted to consult with him. There was talk about assigning one guy to compile new books about monsters, since the current reference book has serious gaps and has long been in need of revision. Although it lists the species and general characteristics of the creatures, it completely lacks information on how to destroy them, so there is no longer any time to delay resolving this issue. The capital remains safe thanks to Atselanos' blessing, but outside the capital, ordinary people suffer daily from monster attacks. The Duke has always been a role model and respected by the people, and his knightly troop has an impeccable reputation and an impressive track record. There is not a single person within this empire who would doubt that he is the right person for such a task, and therefore this decision is a direct order for the Duke. He is to create a detailed collection of methods for destroying all the monsters that inhabit the western border. Since he is completely trusted, the Duke agrees, and after some time the main character has a conversation with her grandfather. She wonders if it is true that the aristocrat from the capital will actually arrive there with his knightly squad. The man confirms this and adds that Baron Bakram is clearly out of his mind and can never sit still. Then the main character wonders why they are even going there, to which the village elder explains that they are going to join forces with border guards from Nifl and study the monsters. The young lady looks surprised, as she thinks that no one would agree to go there, since this place has long been considered abandoned. The man replies that she is absolutely right, because what idiot would fight monsters for a meager salary, and no sane person would do such a thing. The girl adds that most of the monsters in that canyon are level 1, and one wrong move there could cost you your life. The headman agrees and says that this is exactly how it is, because these people are actually heading towards eternal sleep and are unlikely to go there of their own free will. Most likely, it is the result of intrigue and disagreements between high-ranking officials. According to him, it was Baron Bakram who provided this information, so there is no reason to doubt its veracity, and he also mentions that this aristocrat intends to take a guide from their village with him. And as soon as some fool is found who agrees to go with them, he will most likely become only a human shield, and for the village it will be the loss of a valuable resident and an experienced hunter. The girl is perplexed as to why he is so worried, since no one would want to agree to something like that anyway. However, the man notes that no one knows for sure, because they could very well be offered a very impressive reward. The main character immediately reacts to his words, after which the headman smirks and notes that she immediately fell for it as soon as the conversation turned to money. The blonde asks if this means she shouldn't talk about her monster hunting skills, since she might be chosen as a guide. The man confirms that this is what he had in mind. Many people know how to destroy monsters, but not everyone is able to find them, and therefore he would like the girl to stay in the village. He does not wish to lose such a skilled hunter as she, but the young lady objects, reminding him that, as he himself said, she could be offered a lot of money. She is confident that she can survive in the role of a guide, as well as in any other, and therefore sees no reason to stay put. After this, the man declares that he is ready to increase her rate by 50% and cancel one of the rules, to which the young lady agrees. The headman laughs and says that, fortunately, it is always possible to come to an agreement with her, but the girl warns that if he does not keep his word, it will still come back to haunt him, and he in response notes that he does not have a spare life to play with fire. He then rises from his seat and says that he considers all issues resolved, after which he is about to leave. The man wishes the lady good night and leaves the room, and the girl sits down at the table again. She understands that it is not for nothing that they say about the need to treat people well while they are still around. As soon as the threat appeared, this old man immediately raised her pay. The girl also thinks about the aristocrat from the capital and wonders if he will really come there to study monsters. She seems to remember something similar from one book, but later it turned out that it was all part of the Crown Prince's carefully thought-out plan. She becomes curious about who it could be, but then she decides that it doesn't matter anymore because she won't see her favorite either there or here. After this, the lady only sighs heavily and thinks about how good it would be if some handsome guy suddenly fell out of the sky on her. At the same time, one of the servants turns to his lordship and informs him that they are almost there. He also clarifies whether the gentleman really intends to take only one hunter with him as a guide, to which the brunette confirms his decision. The servant privately thinks that it would be wiser to take several people in case of unforeseen circumstances, even if the rules allow only one to be chosen. He then points out that the entrance to the village appears to be visible ahead, and the man removes his hood. He also expresses hope that they will be able to find the right person. After some time, some people whisper to each other, asking if these are the same aristocrats, while others answer that, apparently, this is the case. At this moment, the girl turns to the headman, and he only winks at her, as if reminding her of their agreement. Wayne asks what's going on with Uncle Glisten, and the girl replies that it's just ordinary senile dementia. The blue-haired guy remarks that he seems to have addressed a lady, but she replies that the bald old man's symptoms seem to manifest themselves in a rather peculiar way. She also asks the young man if he has heard anything about these people, as there are rumors that they have come to study monsters. Wayne confirms that, yes, he did hear that a very influential person had arrived there with the intention of creating a collection of monsters. The girl asks if this is true, and then the young man explains that such an order came from the Crown Prince, so that person was obliged to describe the methods of destroying monsters. Rain realizes she doesn't know who they're talking about, but it's clear this man was too inconvenient. Simply put, he was sent to the western borders, effectively condemned to eternal sleep. However, a vague memory emerges in her mind, and she begins to wonder what happened there. It was an aristocrat exiled to the border, where he fell into an eternal sleep. It was definitely mentioned in the book, but the girl can't remember the details, and then comes to the conclusion that it's better to just throw it out of her head. After all, what was the point of thinking about him, no matter how outstanding he was, if he still couldn't compare in beauty to her Gerald? And it is at this moment that the main character freezes in shock, because a real handsome man appears before her eyes. Wayne turns to the young lady and asks if she noticed it, because the guy looks incredibly handsome, and it is the first time he has seen a person with such an appearance. But then he notices how amazed the girl is, and she herself says that this can't be because he is too unrealistically handsome. The young lady, looking at this guy, suddenly realizes that she urgently needs to change her mind, while he only feels someone's gaze on him. At the same time, the captain of the Winter Night Squad introduces himself and says that, as everyone already knows, they are looking for a guide who will go with them to help them study the monsters. He also announces that their nightly squad has decided to hold a hunting tournament, based on the results of which the most suitable person will be chosen. The hunter who joins them after completing the quest will receive a well-deserved reward of 500 gold. Everyone around her is immediately amazed by the sum, with some declaring that you couldn't earn that kind of money in 5 years. The girl, however, notes to herself that, if her life is at stake, the sum is truly small. At the same time, she wonders why these people decided to test skills at all, because they could have simply taken everyone who wanted to and used them as a human shield. At this point, a call is made for those who wish to participate to approach the captain's colleague and state their name. People immediately rush in, pushing and fighting for the line, and Wayne turns to a young lady, asking if she is going to participate. After all, if she submits an application, she will most likely be chosen. But the girl thinks that if she were really interested in money, she would not even consider these 500 gold pieces. But in front of her is the first real handsome man in 3 long years, and she doesn't want to miss such a rare chance. Moreover, she reasons that if she agrees and goes to the border, the likelihood of not returning from there is too high. Wayne assures her that she is the strongest among them, so she has nothing to worry about, but the girl replies that she is not worried about herself at all. The guy is surprised and wonders if she is really worried about him, and the girl at this moment is racking her brains, not understanding what to do, because everything is becoming too complicated. And then she involuntarily overhears a conversation between 2 people, one of whom claims to have heard about that very aristocrat from the Winter family. The young lady immediately grabs the guy by the collar and demands that he repeat what he said, asking whether he was talking about that particular aristocrat, Winter. The young man asks her to let go of his hand because the girl is about to break it, but she only screams, demanding that she speak faster. Afterwards, the guy reveals that his name was Clive Winterlock. Wayne is perplexed, wondering if she's in her right mind and what came over her. Another guy adds that maybe she really has gone crazy, and the main character at this moment remembers the name Ophelia Winterlock. And he realizes that at the end of the abyss, the main character, who is madly obsessed with the crown prince, belongs to this family, which means that this person, he is the only and beloved brother of Ophelia Winterlock, whom Gerard got rid of. His name is Clive Winterlock, and the main character knows very well that Ophelia was madly in love with her brother. The crown prince, deciding that Clive could become an obstacle between him and Ophelia, decides to eliminate him. He sends it off under the pretext of creating a collection about monsters, and already at the very beginning of the work, Clive plunges into eternal sleep during a battle with a monster. The main character is amazed to realize that in front of her is the first handsome man she has seen in the last 3 years, and at the same time she wonders if he will fall into eternal sleep just like that. After this, she decides that she will also apply, determined to prevent a similar outcome. At this point, the village elder exclaims, "I hope not," and after a while someone announces the conditions of the hunting tournament. After a free hunt in the forest, by sunset, everyone must collect attributes from different monsters, and the one who brings the most will be the winner. It is important that the hunt must be done alone, and items obtained with the help of others will not be counted. When the hunters leave, the Duke remembers the lady's look and wonders who she is. Everyone is clearly afraid of her, and he doesn't understand how she can hunt with such an old axe. It seems impossible. Nevertheless, he understands that the results will soon reveal everything. A little later, one hunter asks another if he really brought 3 items. At this time, Wayne comes up to them, puts the bag on the ground, and admits how tired he is. The boy states his name, and the headman's son notes that this hunter has outstanding abilities. The horns belong to a 3rd-level monster, and the magic stone is inconveniently located, so most often the monster's head is simply chopped off. One of the judges asks a colleague to record this and informs the Duke that the hunter brought 5 different types of attributes. So far, this is the largest number among all participants. Someone notes that the choice is already obvious, but the main character asks everyone to get out of the way. The girl places her bag of attributes on the ground, causing surprise among those around her. Wayne asks if she's really that serious, and she replies that, of course, such a chance is rare. The young lady looks at the Duke, trying to understand what this look is. Gradually, she realizes that he doesn't like her aura, because next to her he feels like prey to a wild animal. The guy doesn't understand what she's thinking, but in fact, the young lady is simply admiring his beauty. At this time, someone informs his lordship that the hunter's name is Ella Rain. As you can see, she has incredible skills, and it is said that she is the best at understanding the characteristics of local monsters. One of the judges notes that her success is obvious, although he is wary of her character. The man asks how many types of attributes she brought and receives the answer: 5. The judge notes that Mariah Wayne had the same number, but it is better to choose the one who came earlier. The protagonist, shocked, asks her colleague if he really brought 5 varieties too. He replies that he took the offer of 500 gold pieces seriously. The young lady considers him slow-witted and is sure that she will not be chosen as a guide anyway. Suddenly they hear a scream and they realize that a huge monster has appeared. One of the judges asks for space, but notices the lady and tells her to step back. The girl smiles, noting the perfect moment. If she puts the monster into eternal sleep, first place will be hers. Gyra is a level 2 monster, and the girl understands that the magic stone is hidden very well. The monster attacks, but the lady deftly dodges and jumps, realizing that she needs to cut off his head. When you try to hit, the monster suddenly spits acid. The main character jumps back and notes that it won't be possible to deal with him quickly. One of the knights asks if he should help her, but the other replies that they will only get in the way. The guy notes that Rain has never fought with Gyra, and the Duke thinks that she is an ordinary hunter. He draws his sword, believing that a squad of knights will have to intervene. At this point, someone shouts at him to wait and look at the monster getting ready to throw acid. The main character turns to the Duke and understands that if she dodges, the beautiful flower behind her will suffer. She throws down the axe and decides not to let this happen. The people behind her are surprised, and the girl turns to Wayne with a request to borrow the sword. The guy is surprised, but she repeats the request. The young man calls her heartless and throws down his sword, which she immediately picks up. The lady heads towards the monster again, and with one precise blow, cuts off its head. The Duke looks on in surprise, and the young lady plunges her sword into the ground, noting that the sun has not yet fully set, so they'll assume she's the winner. A little while later, everyone's sitting in the tavern, and someone asks if Ella Rain has really been chosen after all. Another man replies that, of course he did, and asks if he even saw the attributes she brought, since they were first-level attributes, and this girl scares him. Someone else says this isn't the first time, and asks where Rain is now. The other guy replies that she was called to the inn where the Duke was staying, and there were as many as 500 gold coins at stake, so those people were also serious. The guy then says that the girl will soon leave, so he feels somehow sad, and even though she is crazy, she has saved them from danger many times, and even literally saved them today. Everyone owes her something, and it'll be lonely without this lady. So another guy asks if everything will be okay. His friend asks if he's worried about Ella Rain, but he replies that he's not, and not about her. After all, the Duke was meeting her for the first time. At this moment, the main character is standing in front of the Duke's door, and she understands that she will finally be able to see him up close. And now he is her favorite. The blonde man sits next to the axe and looks at it. He remembers how the lady asked him to look after it while she was inside. And let him be careful, because sometimes this axe moves on its own. A little while later, another servant approached him, and he asked what was wrong with his face, but the blonde only asked if he could replace him at his post if he was not busy at the moment. His colleague replied that it was no problem, but asked why he was so pale, and also asked where the hunter was. After which he replied that she was inside, and the main game did not open the door at the same time. She looks at the man in front of her and thinks it is Clive, but when she looks at his face, she's disappointed. The man asks what kind of look that is, and the young lady asks what's wrong. She realizes she thought she'd meet the Duke, but her eyes were nearly falling off. She was in such a hurry to get there, and there was this boar sitting there. Her interlocutor at this time thinks that he does not like the aura of this girl, so he needs to keep her at a distance from the Duke. The man claims that it is time to get down to business, and he called her there to tell her her purpose in this expedition. The lady's task is simple. She only needs to direct them to the places where monsters most often live, and that's all. They will fight the monsters themselves, and she will wait until they finish, after which the young lady will be surprised. And in shock, she cries out, "What does that mean, wait? And shouldn't she fight with them?" The man replies that the order was given only to the Duke and his knightly troop. It was also said that they could choose their own guide, but there were to be no casualties unrelated to this mission. So said his lordship, and he wishes to fulfill his duty himself. The young lady then understands the reason. It was no wonder she found it odd. Even if the expedition was the Crown Prince's plan, Clive was the Duke of this country. The entire plot was constructed according to the author's design, and if everything goes as in the original, Clive Winterlock is destined to fall into eternal slumber. The girl at this time says that nothing can be done, and since it comes to that, she will protect the Duke at all costs. The man then screams in shock, asking what she was talking about, and the young lady tells him not to worry, because no monster that appears on their path will dare to breathe the same air as their Duke. so let this whole thing go to hell. Meanwhile, the man realizes that this girl is actually crazy. At this point, one of the servants greets His Highness. The blonde man says he thinks the boy has come to him for no apparent reason, to which the servant replies that, yes, there is news regarding the Duke of Winterlock. He was informed that he had hired a hunter from a village located near the Antane forest. The blonde then says that something seemed to have happened recently and he is worried about the Duke. And the servant replies that there was one incident, but he already knows that the Duke is not a well-liked person and most likely he needed a guide to speed up the search for monsters. His Highness claims that the Duke was always distinguished by his wit and that he almost regretted sending him there, but since he's doing well, he can rest easy. The service after this proves that nothing compares to His Highness's kindness, and the Crown Prince says that if the Duke is now in the forest, he will very soon reach the border. The servant replies that yes, and it will take 3 days, after which Gerard says, here's how. And from now on, the guy can report to me about the Duke, because he hopes that he hasn't bothered him with his request and was just a little worried about, that's why he asked to find out. The knight then says that he will beat His Highness and did not doubt his intentions, after which His Highness says that the boy has done a good job and can now go, and the knight says goodbye to him. After he leaves, the prince's appearance changes. He also recalls how the knight, bidding him farewell, wished His Highness good health, but then he tells him not to make fun of him. At this point, someone else turns to the Crown Prince and insists that this is just a standard farewell. Such wishes are considered a manifestation of the subjects' loyalty to their emperor. The man then says that this old man has very little time left, so what kind of health can we talk about? And only thanks to his current condition, the guy was able to take this place. So all that was left for him to do was to get Ophelia, and to do that he just needed to get rid of the Duke. His interlocutor at this time asserts that the Duke is stupid after all, because if he had quietly and silently handed over his little sister to him, he would have been able to save his insignificant life. Gerard then sighs and says that he doesn't know, because even in that case, he would still have executed him one day. After which he also offers to tell them how things are at the border, because the Duke's grave will be there very soon, and they must not disappoint him. His interlocutor claims that, although he has become more ferocious lately, this will not give him anything, because no matter how strong a fighter he is, he will not get out of there alive. After all, there are monsters there that react to scent and human breath, so the guy shouldn't worry. Gerard says he's glad to hear that. After which, with a smile on his face, he asks when their dear Duke will fall into eternal sleep. After all, he's so eager to start comforting his Ophelia. Meanwhile, the protagonist checks her bag and realizes she's taken spare clothes and money. The girl says that this is excellent, after which she also looks at the medallion and realizes that she also had this. This thing belonged to the original owner of her body, so she's interested in what it is for. The girl also puts it in her bag and thinks that someday she will find out. Then she puts the bag over her shoulder. And he says it's time to hit the road. Well, when the lady goes outside, she sees a mountain of gifts. She asks what they are. Wayne replies that they are gifts from the locals. Meanwhile, the village chief, with tears in his eyes, announces that their prized hunter is leaving them, and the main character, a little surprised, says that she thought that no one liked her in this village. The blue-haired boy only smiles after this, and claims that he knew it. A little while ago, a girl was dragging a guy and saying that along the way she picked up an idiot whose head was almost bitten off by monsters. Wayne asks if the lady remembers this, and this is not an isolated incident, since the girl has helped many in various difficult situations, and all the villagers are grateful to her. The young lady understands that since she could disappear at any moment, leaving no trace, she had no intention of establishing any connections or relationships with the people of this world. However, she had overlooked something. Trying to stay alive in this world could impact the lives of others. These changes did not pass her by. After which, the main character says that's how it is, and then hugs Wayne and thanks them all. He also says with tears in his eyes that he hopes that they will see each other soon, and promises that he will definitely return. But this is all only in the guy's thoughts, because the girl is now saying goodbye to them with simple words. The guy with blue hair asks if this is all, and wonders where the hugs are, as well as the bitter tears. The blonde tells him not to make a fuss, because she will be here before he can blink. so such goodbyes will only embarrass them both. Wayne asks if she really thinks so, and he's not sure because he doesn't think the girl will be back anytime soon. And it's not just him who thinks this way, but everyone else too, because he has a premonition that they won't see her for a long time. A little while later, the young lady is already heading off in the carriage and wondering why the hell he said that. And did he really understand that she was leaving for the Duke of Winterlock? The girl was also wondering what the point of this trip was. And because of that guy, she can't really do anything, and the girl also thinks, why is he so huge? Rain thinks he's a manager, and that really irritates her. But then she thinks the same thing. What are they talking about so seriously? A little while later, they're all already pitching their tents. The young lady looks around and realizes that the trees seem to be providing good cover. But when she turns to the other knights, they only turn away, and the young lady understands that they are clearly not happy to see her. This is not simple disdain, but rather a hostile attitude, but the girl thinks that she doesn't care because she never intended to be friends with them. At this time, someone else addresses the young lady, and it turns out to be a knight of the Winter Company named Ralph. The girl then says she's actually already 20, but the guy only says his name is Ralph Haugen, and he's 40. The young lady then agrees to let him call her whatever he wants. She won't object to that, though she adds in her mind that, including her past life, she's already 30. The guy then claims that he was extremely surprised by the situation related to Geyer, and asks if he can ask him a couple of questions regarding this topic. He wanted to ask what the method was to destroy such monsters, what other monsters were found there, and whether there were any endemic species of monsters that only existed on the western border. After all, they say that some monsters have poor eyesight, so he asks how bad it is or if they can't see anything, after which he also adds whether the girl can tell about the psyllium and whether it is necessary to run away from it right away or slowly, and also what she knows about other species. The main character then realizes she's screwed. A little while later, she tells him about it, and he writes it down. After which he asks another question about monsters, but the young lady only mentally asks him to shut up and wonders how long they have been hanging around there, and she was wondering why he spoke to her. At that moment, someone else addressed the huntress, and the main character turns to God and says that he sent the savior 1,000,000 centuries later and he will pay her back for that too. She also asks why he came so late and whether he could not have done it earlier, but the man replies that he thought she was having an interesting conversation and did not want to disturb her. Rain also asks what happened, because she thought that he would never speak to her again, to which he replies that he didn't want to, but had to. His lordship invites the girl to dine together, which surprises the young lady, and then she wonders with admiration if she'll really have dinner with the Duke. A little while ago, when the man addressed the Duke, he cried out that he swears this girl is crazy. After all, the last time he spoke to her alone, but she spoke using some strange and incomprehensible words. She is an ordinary conductor, so it is unlikely that she will have any business with the Duke, but let him still be wary of her. The man then tells the servant to watch his words, because even if she is an ordinary hunter, she is the one who must help them in this mission. At this time, someone informed his lordship that there was an open clearing nearby, so it would be a good idea to build a pass there. Then the man said that they would stop today in this clearing, and ordered them to prepare for the night. He also looked at the young lady and claimed that he would invite the huntress to dinner today. His assistant then cried out in shock, asking why, and the Duke replied that her help in this expedition was irreplaceable, so he wanted to show her respect. The man then mentally asked his lordship not to do this, and doubted that this lady was even familiar with table etiquette, or even the word itself. Well, when the young lady is having dinner, she shows very good etiquette, and the brunette asks if she has studied etiquette, to which the girl replies, of course. The man then asked where she learned this, since etiquette is something that aristocrats learn, and it's unlikely that an ordinary hunter would have such an opportunity. The girl then thinks that everything is just like that, after which she claims that she learned etiquette by reading novels, but then claims that she wanted to say that Baron Bakram taught her because she had the chance to eat with him, and then he taught her. The girl understands that on that day she ate her fill for the first time, and today she was able to eat normally. And of course it is so, because it pleases the eyes, and that is why everything seems tasty and sweet. The Duke's assistant at this time is sure that this girl is thinking about something indecent. The girl then claims that the captain told her that she cannot participate in the hunt, to which the guy replies that, yes, they had originally planned to choose only a guide for themselves, but he'll be grateful if the young lady tells the knight with the notebook about how to destroy monsters. The girl wonders if he's talking about that crazy guy. After which she says it's a bit tiring, but so be it, and she also asks if she can join in the monster hunt. Before arriving there, Clive was given some advice. Hunters do not enter into contracts on a temporary basis, as they may become lazy and do nothing, so a contract can only be concluded with them in a specific situation. However, Ella Rain was very enthusiastic about everything, though he hadn't expected it from her. She's a bit odd, but it seems they've chosen an excellent hunter. After which the man says that he understood her. However, this is by no means an easy question that can be resolved so quickly since she has nothing to do with their mission. But the young lady asks in what sense, since her role in this mission is obvious. The main goal is to prevent him from falling into eternal sleep, as well as to protect him from everything that can harm him. The man is only surprised by this, and the Duke is no less. After which he asks in surprise if she is really talking about him, and the girl replies that she will protect him from monsters even if she has to sacrifice her life. But the Duke then asks why he is doing this, and his assistant at the same moment moves away from the table and screams at the girl not to make him laugh. After all, she kept repeating the same thing. But what right does she have to say that, and she only met their Duke recently? After which the man also shouts that he himself will protect him, just as the captain of the winter detachment, he will protect his master, so let the girl know her place. The young lady simply screams, "What kind of nonsense is he talking? Has he ever even fought a monster one-on-one? He can't even imagine how hard it is to hunt first-level monsters." The man simply yells at her not to say anything nonsensical, since all the girl knows is how to fight monsters. Rain replies that she doubts his skills given the existence of flying monsters, but he replies that he will learn how to hunt them and will protect the Duke himself. But the young lady then asks who will tell him how to destroy the monsters. The man only cries out how she takes him, and the Duke then sighs and turns to both of them. After which he claims that he is able to protect himself and does not need their help. Meanwhile, the heroine thinks the Duke is sweet, even when he's angry. And the knight's commander understands that his master doesn't lose his masculinity even when he's angry. The brunette then declares that dinner is over and they can go free. The man is only happy after this, and the young lady's face is like, well then the Duke says that River can leave too. When the two leave, they're still exchanging barbs. The Duke, left alone, sighs, and he thinks that it was as if a typhoon swept through the room, and after that day, nothing like that happened again. One day, the boy was sitting next to his father, and his father turned to him and told him to keep their traditions. He also defended his honor, did not show his weaknesses to others, and hid his feelings. After all, this was the only way he could protect this family and his little sister. The man told him to remember this and never forget, but the boy agreed. At the age of 15, the young man said goodbye to his father after hearing his last urging, and without forgetting his father's words, he hid his feelings and tried in every way to protect the family. 12 years passed, and Clive Winterlock had become a man with the whistling voice of the Winter Duke. Throughout his life as head of the Winterlock family, he had hidden his feelings well, and it had even become habitual, until Ella Rain appeared before him. Now the man asks who she is, and if this girl is the person who can turn his life upside down. A little while later, someone informs the Crown Prince that there is more and more news that the monsters have become more aggressive and are attacking people more often. News of this comes in every day, and many of these monsters are coming to the western borders. The blonde then tells the guy to bring all the documents regarding this problem, because he will personally review them. To which he agrees. The man then turns to the young lady and claims that he made a mistake because he should not have listened to his report in her presence. He also tells Ophelia not to worry because the imperial family will do everything they can to help the Duke. The girl then turns to His Highness and asks him to address her as the Duke of Winterlock's deputy. But the boy approaches the young lady and says that the Duke of Winterlock will return soon. So let the young lady not worry. This only makes the girl feel embarrassed, and then she moves on. And she asks His Highness for forgiveness, as she's not feeling well, so she'd better go. The man then says he shouldn't have kept her, and asks how the lady is. After all, if she was that sick, then he would send her an imperial physician, but the girl replied that no matter what, everything would pass if she got a good rest. The blonde then smiles and says that it will be good, then he will order her carriage to be prepared and let the girl have a good rest. After which the young lady moves on, and His Highness, watching her, only smirks. Ophelia Winterlock was very wise, but at the same time weak, so one piece of bad news could have a profound effect on her. At this time, the girl is in the Duke's estate and looking at the teddy bear that her brother gave her. But then she hits this fluffy guy and screams that she is the deputy of the Duke of Winterlock. The girl also asks this freak why she has to repeat it so many times. At this moment, the butler approaches the lady and claims to have brought her tea. The girl drinks it immediately. After which, she claims that she will immediately head to the office because she will not allow their family to fall because of such a trifle. And after she finishes her business, she will write a letter to her brother. And if he dares to fall into eternal sleep there, she will dig him out of the ground, put him into eternal sleep, and bury him again. Dvoretsky claps his hands and declares that this is an excellent idea. Ophelia, who was considered weak by society, was actually quite strong, which is why little Clivic had to be stitched up more than once. At this point, the Duke puts his hand on his heart and says that he has some kind of bad feeling. The main character is riding at the end of the carriage with the knights who are writing everything down, and he is wondering how to destroy this monster, and the girl, having already stopped resisting, claims that his magic stone is hard to notice, so he needs to cut off his head. Well then, the young lady suddenly notices how the other knight looked at her with pitying eyes. The guy turns around at that moment, but the young lady realizes that there is something strange there. After all, these people treat her as if she were invisible, and maybe it's all because of her background, but that's too much. Afterwards, the main character turns to Hagen and claims she has a question for him. The man then, with a smile on his face, invites her to ask him anything. And the main character claims that, unlike some, she does not intend to drive a person into eternal sleep with her questions. And then he wonders if there's someone among their men who was betrayed by the hunter. Meanwhile, another knight is being trampled by the water, and the man with the notebook insists he heard nothing of the sort. The girl continues her questions, wondering if some hunter mistook one of the knights for a monster and tried to hunt it. The man replies that it sounds terrifying. And after this, the young lady cries out, "Why then does everyone dislike hunters?" Hogan asks what she's talking about, and the young lady replies that she doesn't really care about the people around her. But she did notice a strange atmosphere in the squad. After all, these people aren't just ignoring her, they're demonstratively wary. The man then says it's a misunderstanding. It's not that the knights dislike her, but at that very moment, someone cries out that there's a monster there. The main character is surprised by this, and the knights scream that it is a flying monster. So let everyone prepare their bow and arrows, after which they do so, but they miss. The man with the notepad tells the lady that this is a level 1 flying monster. The young lady replies that this is true, and that his name is Quarry. The knight commander then turns to the huntress, and he cries out how they can destroy this monster. The girl replies that first they need to bring it down to earth, and then destroy the magic stone. There are stones on either side of the wings, but hitting them with arrows will be difficult, so you have to climb on it and rip off its wings. The man then claims they'll lure him closer to the ground, after which he screams for the knights to use arrows to lure the monster. He also addresses Rain, but when he turns around he sees that the cart is no longer there. At this point, the girl screams for everyone to maintain their positions. Hogan tells the lady that this is very strange and asks if it's true. And the young lady replies that it is precisely the Quarry who never descend from their mountains. The girl also tells Hogan to take her to their squad faster because she needs to climb onto this monster when it flies closer, after which the man agrees. And he also tells the child to hold on tighter, and then the main character realizes that this monster will come down and repent. But she also curses and says that she hasn't gotten there yet. After that, the monster lands, and the young lady immediately jumps out of the carriage and extends her hand to him. She immediately grabs the monster by the paw and climbs onto it. The girl realizes she'll have to cut off one wing first, so she does just that. When the monster starts to fall, the young lady thinks that it's great because he's starting to land, and she needs to jump before he hits the ground. Then the young lady looks at the path ahead, but is shocked. At this point, the knights ask if it is of a different order. The guy next to whom the monster landed replies that he is also completely fine because the huntress arrived on time. The man then says that this is great and that they need to join her quickly, but at that very moment someone shouts out to the captain. After which, breathing heavily, he claims that they have a problem because another quarry has appeared there. The Duke wanted to protect them, so he decided to distract him from the squad. Now the protagonist sees the Duke fighting another monster. After which she cries out to him. The young lady understands that the novel does not describe when and under what circumstances the Duke fell into eternal sleep, but it does say that he parted with his life on his mission shortly after receiving the order. And the young lady realizes that it happened right there in the Nifel Canyons. Now the young lady wonders if there's another monster there, but realizes that's not important right now, and then wonders why the Duke is standing there all alone. The young lady then screams at him and jumps off her monster and onto another. The man then wonders if it is a huntress or a young lady who jumped on the monster. In shock, she says that she almost kicked the bucket, after which she turns to the Duke and sees that he is no longer there. She also says that she doesn't understand and asks where he is, after which she looks at the other wing, and she realizes the Duke is there. She addresses him informally and tells him to hold on tight and not move. The girl also wonders what would happen if something happened to him. People also claim it's dangerous and wonder why he's climbing. Well, the brunette turns to the huntress and claims that he has been training with knights for a long time, and as he already said, he does not need her protection. The young lady then only curses and understands that in the original plot he is destined to fall into eternal sleep. The guy then says that of course she is more experienced, so he should follow her instructions. But he's not going to dump everything on her and hide like a coward, because she's there because of their mission, so he can't let her fall into eternal sleep. At this time, the main character extends her hand to him in response and says how noble he is. And yet he is also so handsome, so this is embarrassing. The girl also says that it is great and invites him to do it together. After all, first they need to cling to the wings and cut them off so that the monster falls to the ground. She also claims that it will not be repeated, so let Winterlock listen to her carefully. She will give him a sign, and at that moment you need to tear off the monster's wings, and he might fall. So let him tie his hands to them before they hit the ground. Then let him do a somersault to land softer, and preferably without looking down. The man then just sighs and says that she didn't really have to. But when he looks at the young lady's expression, he nods and says that he understands. The young lady then says okay and let him be careful, and then she starts counting. And in one moment, they cut off both wings. The monster then begins to fall, and then they land. When the stones are broken, the Duke finally sighs, but at that very moment the knights run up to him and turn to him with concern. The captain asks his lordship for forgiveness, because he should not have left him alone. But the brunette claims that he did everything that depended on him, because thanks to him, the squad remained unharmed. The knights are almost in tears at this, and the Duke says that he wants to ask the captain something. Then he immediately claims that he is listening, after which the man asks if he really seems so weak. The captain is only surprised by this, and asks what he is talking about, after which the Duke only says that it is nothing and suggests that he forget about it. A little while later, the man finds himself in his room and says that he is so tired, after which he sits down on the bed but then looks at the book on the table. He remembers the Emperor's words about him writing an encyclopedia about monsters, including those species about whose destruction nothing is written, and he must describe absolutely all species. The guy also remembers how his sister asked if the Emperor was really offering him to learn about the way to destroy all the monsters and how this was even possible, since His Highness was simply sending him into an eternal sleep. Now the man understands that Ophelia was right, because it is practically impossible. However, he also remembers the young lady and wonders if this is really the case. After which the brunette goes out into the corridor and screams, asking where River is. The captain immediately approaches his lordship and asks what happened, but the brunette merely insists that they need to rewrite the contract. A little while later, the main character reads this contract and asks if this means that he wants her to do more than just her duties as a conductor, but also training knights, to which the guy replies, yes, if she is a knight, then their squad will cope better and without losses. perhaps it's not to her advantage to reveal her exceptional skills. So they'll double her bet. The young lady is silent for a moment after this, but then insists that it's not worth it, because after today's situation, she herself thought the knights would have to be prepared. And by the way, she's already received payment for this. The Duke wonders what she's talking about after this. The young lady thinks her flower looks great with a hairstyle with bangs down. Clive says, well, if the girl agrees, then let him sign the contract in this place, because they will begin training as soon as they arrive at the border. The young lady then signs. The commander addresses his lordship, and then states that they will have to postpone their training. He was sorry to have to say this, but the knights had not yet accepted her as a member of the squad. The man also claims he's already given orders for them to stop behaving like this, but only after this situation. The young woman, meanwhile, is wondering what situation he's referring to, and then she screams out, did the man really give them such an order? But she thought that he told them that the young lady was abnormal, so they should not approach her, after which he screams out that of course not, because he is not that shameless. The commander of the knights claims that as long as he is the captain of this squad, he will not allow any of them to treat others with disdain, even if it concerns the huntress. And this time, he'll give them time to figure it all out on their own. The young lady is silent for a moment after that, but then he claims that it is commendable because he behaved like the captain of the squad, but the man screams that he is the captain of the squad, but why the hell is he arguing with her again? The young lady at this time claims that there are no problems, no matter how they treat her. This will not affect the training in any way, because she even thinks that she will miss her old days. A little while later, the young lady is bombarded with questions again, and the captain watches all this. After which he thinks that's what she was talking about. He also approaches them and says that he was wondering why it was so noisy there. It turns out this huntress was the one causing the ruckus. The young lady asks what he's talking about and insists she's been keeping quiet. The girl asks if he sees how tired her ears are from this noise, and it seems to her that she is now listening to 10 wains at once. The girl already begins to count the monsters, and the captain only turns around after that. And he wishes her good luck, which only makes the girl angry, and asks why he is so happy. The man then merely tells the knights to stop messing around and return to their posts. Hagen says that the captain is apparently pleased that she started getting along with the knights. The young lady then says that this cannot be, and didn't he see that face a minute earlier? The girl also asks what kind of affliction this is, after which the man turns to her again and insists that he already told her that these people do not feel any hostility towards hunters, and the young lady wonders why then they had such an attitude towards her. The man replies that before she joined the group, they already had a guide, a man known for his research into monsters, but he fell into an eternal sleep on the way there. The protagonist wonders if that's really true. Hogan replies that yes, he too was plunged into eternal sleep for trying to take the Duke's life. The main character then understands why the knights looked at her like that and cut their hair. But the Duke could have fallen into eternal sleep twice before he even reached the border. After which the young lady says that this is how things are, but Hogan asks the child what happened. The girl replies that she thinks it will be quite difficult to protect Clive Winterlock. And now, having learned all this, she understands them, because the knightly squad is very loyal to their duke. The man then replies that it goes without saying that their duke sometimes takes on too much and tries to do it all on his own. And with this task, it happens exactly the same way. That's why they all think every time. Why can't the Duke turn a blind eye to all this, and why does he refuse to take the easy way but always choose the difficult path of solitude? Standing behind the reliable back of their Duke, they came to one conclusion, and that is that the Duke needed someone next to him who could share this heavy burden with him. Before they went on the mission, the Duke had offered them several times to refuse the opportunity, but of course they did not. They decided to take only one guide, after which the man asked if she knew why this was happening. After all, that's the rule, established to protect the people. However, many aristocrats do not adhere to his agents. Yesterday almost sacrificed himself without thinking, luring the monster to himself in order to protect his knights. This incident taught them a lot, and all they understood was that in order not to drag the Duke down and not become a burden for him, they needed to become stronger. The young lady recalls how the man said that if the girl trained the knights, then in the future their squad would cope better and without losses. So now the young lady just remains silent, but then tells Hogan not to worry. After all, she will be with the Duke all the time, after which the man is only surprised by the lady's antenna and replies that they have signed a new contract. And as a connoisseur of beauty, she would never allow Winterlock to fall into eternal sleep. The man then asks what a connoisseur means, and the young lady replies that it's like a disease, and he wonders if it can't be cured. The girl replies that for this she will have to gouge out her eyes, and Hogan is shocked by this. He thinks about a disease that can only be cured by gouging out his eyes, but at the same moment the huntress is approached by knights, who say that they will soon arrive at the border. One of them says that when they arrive, let the huntress have a good meal. And another one asks if she took spare things with her, because if something happens, they will help her. And the girl then says that she is Rain, after which the knights are a little surprised. And the young lady tells them to call her by her name and not to forget that she has one. The guys are surprised after this, and then she says that it's good because from now on they will only address her by her first name. Another one of them says that the girl is right, because it would be awkward to constantly call her a huntress because they will be fighting together for a long time. Hogan asks if he can call her child by her old name. The young lady replies that he still calls her that. While they were talking, the sound of a bell could be heard in the distance. They had arrived at the border. A little while later, they find themselves in one of the rooms and looking at the other knights. At this moment, someone turns to his lordship, and the Duke puts his hand on his head and says that this is it and that this is what the Crown Prince wanted to achieve. Clive knew full well that investigating monsters on the western border was a dangerous mission, and even knew that he had been sent there on purpose. But despite this, he tried as best he could, because he understood that the results of this research would benefit his country. So someone had to do it, and that someone was himself. Clive convinced himself of these words, but when he read the report, he thought how strange it was, and could this really be a report from the border guards? The hastily written documents contained no useful information, not a single line about monsters. And only now the guy realized that the report was written this way not because the border guards themselves wanted it that way. Well, they didn't even have a choice. And now he understands what the imperial family means and had no intention of helping them in this mission. The Duke is also wondering what they should do in this situation, and the young lady claims that Gerard Asalanos has gone completely crazy. After this, everyone from there turns pale, and the young lady claims that she of course knew that he was not friends with his pumpkin. But she couldn't even imagine that it was so shocking that all the knights were shocked. And they think that they probably just heard it. It couldn't be that she was some kind of hunter. She dared to call the Crown Prince so disrespectfully, let alone insult him. Hongan immediately addresses the child, but the girl asks what's wrong. After all, this crazy Crown Prince abandoned the border to its fate, which is why there is such chaos there, and the knights are shocked to realize that they were not hearing things correctly after all. The man with the notepad immediately turns to the child and says she's insulting a member of the royal family, but the girl asks what difference it makes, since he's not there anyway, and she can let off some steam. After which, she turns to them and asks if they don't do the same, but they just remain silent and understand that of course not. The Knight's commander asks what she's even talking about, but at that very moment, the Duke approaches the young lady, and then he turns to her and tells her that she better not express herself like that. The young lady is a little surprised by this, after which she starts screaming out whether she is right or not and wonders if anyone disagrees with her. The Duke then turns around and asks who is responsible, after which one of the knights says that it is him. He also asks to be allowed to introduce himself and claims that he is the captain of the border detachment and his name is Edmund Jensen. The Duke also introduces himself and then asks if these are all the members of the squad. The guy replies that no, and at the moment several guys have gone to eliminate the monsters. Well, there are only 10 of them there. The man then realizes that the total number of border guards does not exceed 30 people. The man also wondered if it was possible to hunt monsters with such a small number of people, after which the guy apologizes for his frankness but claims that this is physically impossible, because they are simply checking the wall and if it is destroyed, they will restore it. The Knight Commander also claims that, fortunately, many of them have experience, so they are holding up as best they can. And since the monsters there are most often not of a low level, they are constantly getting injured. But then the main character tickles the guy, and he abruptly finishes his speech to those who are why they have to run away from them. After this, the Knight Commander turns to the young lady and cries out who she is. But the young lady only says it's pathetic. The guy screams, "Who is this pathetic guy? Is it really him?" He's training and trying his best. The main character asks what he's talking about, since she's talking about the state of his armor and weapons. She also asks if they bought it with their own money, to which he replies that it was from a delivery. Rain asks if they have thought about getting an update, to which he replies that they have thought about it, but they don't have the money for it. The girl replies that he could sell attributes from monsters, and for that kind of money, they could easily afford a normal price reduction. But the guy replies that the attributes obtained by border guards are always sent to the Imperial Palace. Rain claims that if they had taken a few for themselves, they wouldn't have even noticed, to which the knight replies that yes, and that's true. The young lady then says that, in principle, there are no places there from where one can sell attributes, and it's unlikely that traders would go there, putting their lives on the line. So after that, the guy asks who she even is. The young lady then points to herself and states that her name is Ella Rain. She's a monster hunter and a guide too. 3 years have passed since she's been worried about the death of the people who are heading toward their country. The girl realizes that before she got there, she was just watching everything while eating popcorn. After which the lady says that to begin with, parallel to the son's description of the encyclopedia, they can take care of the state of the border and they need to get money, repair everything there, and then buy new equipment. The girl also suggests improving the condition of the place. And of course, try to finish writing the encyclopedia as quickly as possible. Rain asks if everyone understands this, and in short, they have one goal. They will rip off the head of this crazy prince. Well, at that very moment, the lady doesn't finish speaking, because someone covers her mouth and says that first they will unload all their things. It turns out to be the Duke, and he tells the captain to show his knights to their rooms. After which someone turns to his lordship, but he says that they are free. They're a little surprised by this. And when they reach the corridor, the Duke asks if Rain can help Knight Miller, because if he needs her, he'll call her. The young lady then agrees and menacingly advances further. And the Duke recalls how the commander said that this girl was clearly abnormal. Now the brunette sighs and realizes he was right. A little while later, the main character helps with unpacking, and she wonders why everyone is acting this way and whether she's wrong. Her colleague asks if she's seriously asking that, and she was lucky that they were on the border and far from the capital, otherwise she would be. And then all of her descendants for 3 generations would have been imprisoned for insulting the imperial family. Well, at that very moment, someone asks if they are talking about insulting the imperial family, which causes the guy to become shocked and scream. At that moment, another knight runs up to them and asks what happened, after which he sees another guy in a cart and wonders if this is Mr. Magician. The main character then asks if it's really the mage. Another knight asks why he was riding in the cart with the things and if he wasn't in a different one. The guy replies that the cart left and different knights came out of nowhere, so he found himself squeezed, and he had to get into this carriage, after which the knight says that's how it is, and the main character once again asks who it is. Her interlocutor replies that he is a mage named Lance Fort, sponsored by the Duchy of Winterlock. So he also took part in this expedition and is treating the squad. Afterwards, the guy only says that emos are so tired of magical cures for injuries, and he's already made 1802 bottles. He pats the magician on the head and says what a great guy he is. The main character then also turns to him and says that she has a request, after which she asks if he can do something for her. The guy then says yes with a smile on his face. And the young lady claims that she hasn't even said what she wants from him yet, after which the guy says, if it's something new, he'll agree to anything, just so long as it's not a magic cure. The young lady then says okay and shows what she needs. A short time later, the girl stands before the knights, and she's about to announce something. The mage hides behind her, after which the young lady greets the knights. She also says that, as some of them have already heard, training begins today, where she will teach them to resist monsters. The girl claims her name is Ella Rain, and that she is a monster hunter, and that she is contracted by the Duke to train them. The young lady insists that their tears won't break the concrete, and that they will squeeze every last drop out of you, and this guy will help her with her training. One of the knights then asks if this is really the master magician, and the other one claims that this is the first time he's seen him. The young lady tells them not to come any closer. He also claims that today they will learn some methods of confronting monsters and asks if they have seen a whore or an armadillo. These are creatures that attack by returning to their hard shell, after which the young lady turns to the master magician, and he uses his staff, after which a ball appears behind them, which seems to be moving. The young lady at this time turns to the knights and tells them to destroy him now. The ball then begins to roll at high speed, and the knights run away screaming. The magician then tells them not to worry, because if this ball touches a person, it will disappear. Razor asks if this is really true, and wonders if they couldn't have said so right away. Well, his interlocutor replies that sometimes it doesn't disappear and can spin for a very long time. At this time, the main character says that, in the worst case, she will destroy him before he gets to them. These monsters also have a magic stone located on their foreheads, making it hard to miss. It's located right between their pointed ears, and you have to climb up and hit it directly. But one of the knights then says that this ball is spinning, and how can they destroy the magic stone? The young lady replies that you just need to land a good hit, and shows that it's all that simple. But the knight doesn't quite understand. The girl replies that the specimen chasing them has a mark instead of a stone. Therefore, she hopes that they will figure out where to strike, but the knight cries out that even with a magnifying glass you can't see this mark. The girl replies that Hor will not spare them only because they have strategic vision, after which the guy screams in shock. And the young lady claims that today the training will be unlimited, that is, it will last until they succeed. The knights then realize they're finished. A short time later, one of them is barely breathing, and the other is running away from the stone. The captain, who is sitting with the Duke, is wondering what is going on there. But at that very moment, the Duke turns to him and claims that he has read the report. The one he sent him was full of misunderstandings. The guy then apologized and claimed he'd never written a report before. But the man asks if he doesn't report the state of affairs to the imperial family. The commander replies that the Duke was the first to ask for an answer, the previous captain also did not send reports to anyone, and he tried his best. But apparently that's not enough, and he asks for forgiveness. The Duke then asks how long he's been captain of the border detachment, to which he replies that it's about 4, which makes the man surprised and wonders if the previous captain has really abandoned his position. The guy then says that in fact a monster broke in there and, unfortunately, an instant immersion into eternal sleep occurred. Since he was the deputy tour, the role of captain automatically passed to him and there was a lot to do, so he was not able to write it all down in the report. The brunette then asks how often monsters get in there, but the guy just shakes his head and claims that before that incident, this had never happened. He has been there for a long time and knows the habits of monsters well, but only recently the monsters began to behave so aggressively. The Duke then says that he must have suffered a lot, but the captain replies that everything is fine. After all, the situation had improved at least a little, after which they both looked out the window, where a young lady shows how to defeat this monster, but the knights are not very enthusiastic after a long run. At this time, the Duke looks at the young lady and then thinks what would have happened if she were not with them. They might not have even reached the western border like Togo and some people in the imperial castle wish, but it is only thanks to rain that they are there. After which the Duke turns to the captain and states that he will order new equipment for the border guards. They should also begin repairing the building as soon as possible, as there's no telling when the monsters might attack again. The boy understands he must do everything in his power to help, and then he states that after lunch they will have a meeting regarding their budget. A little while later, they are already in the border zone conference room, and the main character asks why she was invited there, after which the man replies that she is their guide, so it wouldn't hurt for her to be aware of some details. The main character realizes that she doesn't like gatherings and remembers her past life. At this time, someone asks how much money they have set aside to buy equipment. The captain replies that they don't have a specific amount, and, of course, there is a small budget that comes from the imperial family, but all these savings go towards food and the restoration of the walls. The young lady then cries out, asking if they don't even pay them properly, and if they're truly brainless. The Duke claims that additional income can be obtained through sponsorship, and any organization can request it, so the duchy will agree to their request. Well, the young lady objects after this and says that okay, they will set up this sponsorship. Well, what will happen next? Even if they want to buy equipment, there is no market or retail outlets there. The girl wonders if he's really planning to travel 30 lands to buy equipment. And even though they decided to go anyway, carts carrying such things are sure to become targets for bandits. And to strengthen the wagons, security will have to hire more people, and that will also require a hefty investment. Even if the transport is successfully completed, given all the above circumstances, it will take at least a month. So they need not only money, but also a place to spend it and a place where they can both earn and spend at the same time. The brunette thinks for a moment and asks if the lady has any suggestions. The girl replies that of course, and then enthusiastically suggests opening a black market. But she is the only one who is so enthusiastic about it, and the Duke, shocked, asks what she is talking about. The knight commander then asks if she is serious, but the girl asks what happened to his reaction. After all, this is the most effective method, but the man is interested in how she came up with such an idea. The blonde replies that through the black market they will be able to sell attributes, and in addition will receive all the necessary things, after which the man asks to be allowed to ask if she even knows that the black market is illegal. The young lady notes that, of course, she has been a hunter for several years now, and how could she not know this? But now they are not in a position where they can find fault with whether it is legal or not. And, for example, the claws of Quarry, whom they put into eternal sleep last time, can be sold on the black market for 500 gold. The more money they have, the better their equipment, and although this market is illegal, it is an effective way to earn money and fight monsters as effectively as possible. The young lady also wonders if this will help convince the Duke, after which he claims that everything she says is quite reasonable. And since things are going as badly as they can be, and the way to solve them, it's better for them to try, because many human lives are at stake. However, the guy understands that if rumors spread that the Duke is doing illegal things, then his people in the capital will be in danger, and then his family too. After which, he asserts that this option is still very risky and suggests they think about it some more. The young lady then says that if they don't mind, she offers to open a black market in her name. The guy then asks what she's talking about, and the young lady asks if it shouldn't be like that, since an aristocrat would open a black market in his own name. The captain then asks the silly girl if she understands what this means, because if something goes wrong, she will have to take full responsibility. The young lady notes that she has done a lot of illegal things, so there is no point in being afraid now. But the man just screams. Is she really bragging about this? The Duke then says that this will put Rain in great danger, and he would like to avoid everything. What could harm her? The young lady is surprised after this, and the young lady argues that then it's all the more necessary to open this market. After all, they have a choice between surviving on the border without proper equipment or surviving with a budget sufficient to afford everything they need. The girl asks which option he finds most acceptable, but the brunette merely asks why she's so desperate. Then he interrupts his conversation, and he says that it's good, and they will also do as the lady says, but if something goes wrong, he will help her get out of it, and it doesn't matter whether it was legal or not. He smiles at the main character afterward and says they've reached an agreement, and also tomorrow morning she will send a letter to one place, and in 2 or 3 days they will be able to open a black market, and then she, along with the goods and her favorite hatchet, will go to make a deal. One of the knights then asks why he would take an axe to the deal, and the girl says that it's a good question. And there are several people on the black market who are ready to put her into eternal sleep at any moment. This is a sort of side effect that has contributed to the stability of prices on the black market, after which the Duke claims that he will accompany her. The young lady insists he'll stand out, after which the guy says he'll put on a hood and try to keep it on. Rain thinks about it and realizes that such beauty can't be hidden under hoods, but he agrees anyway. The knight commander heads down the corridor a little while later and just sighs. He understands that this is an abnormal girl full of surprises, and remembers how she once said that although the black market is illegal, but this is the best option they have, and the man also understands that the girl is planning to open this market in her own name. He didn't think that the young lady would voluntarily get involved in such a dangerous matter, however, he had noticed it last time. That Rain is a good person, after which he also happens to be in the room to his lordship. But when no one answers, the guy is a little surprised, after which everyone enters the room. However, At the same moment, he is shocked because he sees the Duke and the young lady very close. From the outside, it looks like they are kissing, and the man even screams. A little while ago, the knights were fighting a monster, and one of them cried out that there was no choice, so let them get ready to cut off the monster's head. Then someone cried out how they would cut that thick neck. Well, his interlocutor cried out that the magic stone was hidden from their sight, so all that remains is to behead the monster. The young lady then turned to Haugen, and she asked if she should go down with an axe. But the man told Vichin no, and that it wasn't her place to hunt yet. The young lady only got angry after this and screamed that this was already their 6th raid, and she had not put a single monster into eternal sleep, so she was wondering why it was not possible. Well, the man then asks what she thinks, where is his magic stone? Because it seems to him that it is hidden somewhere in the transfer. The girl understands that it is in the right front paw, but thinks how amazing this is, and maybe she should shout that she sees a magic stone. Well, then the lady understands that she will only make her situation worse, because last time there was a considerable commotion when she single-handedly caught the monster. The girl also wonders why she can't take part in the hunt, because no matter how much she asks, she can't get a clear answer. After which, the young lady says that she cannot bear it any longer, and then throws down her axe altogether. It hits the rock, causing the monster to scream and fall. The girl then says she was aiming for the Temesco. But it seems that luck smiled on her, because she landed right on the magic stone. One of the knights then cries out that the hunt is not over yet and asks where she is, but the girl replies that they can manage perfectly well without her, so let them continue in the same spirit. The young lady also understood that she needed to ask the Duke about this directly. At this time, the man was sitting in his office and filling out important documents. But at that very moment, the girl burst into his room, causing him to shudder. The Duke then asked the girl what brought her there, but she replied that she would take part in the hunt. Clive replied that it was enough that she was doing her duty as a guide, since they had enough free hunters. But the girl then screams that this is sheer nonsense. The young lady also points to the knights on the street, and he screams that a complete nightmare is happening there. The Duke is only embarrassed by such closeness, and he realizes that if he thinks about it, Rain has the same hair as the crown prince, and although the aura around her is not as luxurious, there is still some kind of warmth emanating from her. The main character then cries out to the Duke, but he only turns away and says that he refuses. The young lady asks why, after which the guy says that this is not the problems. And in general, he asks if she could move away, but at that very moment the commander enters the room. Then the two turn to him, and he's shocked. He cries out, "Is this girl crazy?" And he asks what she's doing, but she shouts that this is, honestly, a misunderstanding. Well, the commander yells that she just did it. The Duke then claims it was a misunderstanding, and nothing happened. And the young lady then hits the table and screams that in any case, she will take part in the hunt. But the Duke replies that no, and the young lady cries out why else, to which he replies that they have enough people, and they need to gain experience, and if she trains them properly, they will hunt with ease, and she is there in the role of a guide, so she should not participate in raids. Rain asks since when did they become so law-abiding, and remembers that they recently decided to open a black market. The Duke then wants to say something else, but the young lady gets a little embarrassed, after which he turns around and says to hell with him. After all, she will not take part in the hunt, and generally says that it is unfair to use such a look against her. Well, in return, if someone is in danger, then she will interfere, regardless of all their rules. After which the girl leaves, and the Duke, left alone, sighs. Meanwhile, the captain says he's been wondering why the lady is behaving this way, after which she offers the Duke to let her take part in the hunt, because then the girl will become a good example for the other guys. The brunette says that there is a grain of truth in the guy's arguments, but the lady is their only guide. The man also recalls how she said she would take part in the hunt, and then suggested opening a black market, and the way she addressed him recently. So now, the guy, a little embarrassed, thinks that it's only for this reason. At the same time, in the village where Rain lived, someone asks Wayne if he has heard the latest news. The guy with blue hair asks what he's talking about and whether he's really talking about the black market, to which he replies that he has a truly animal-like intuition. But he replies that he doesn't want to hear another word about the black market since he's more interested in me. The other guy then says he knows, since Wayne is a law-abiding hunter. Then the guy tells him to leave him alone. Well, his interlocutor asks if he isn't curious about Ella Rain. After which, the young man with blue hair asks what is wrong with her, and the other guy claims that there are rumors about it. That the girl is opening a black market near the western border. The guy is simply surprised. After which, he asks to tell him all the details, but his interlocutor asks why he would do this, because the desire to chat with the person who just drove him away completely evaporated. Wayne is silent for a moment after this, and his interlocutor then says, okay, he was just kidding. As the guy himself knows, Rain doesn't do black market deals. Well, recently rumors started circulating that she's selling quarries claws. The blue-haired guy seems a bit thoughtful after that, and he understands that many will come running to get such a rare attribute, but if this happens, it'll be a bit bad, after which the blue-haired guy asks if he knows where it will happen. His interlocutor replies that they say it will happen on the other side of the border. Wayne, hearing this, immediately runs away, exclaiming that he's grateful. His companion then asks where the guy is headed. He just runs as fast as he can and understands that he needs to hurry, otherwise Rain might get hurt. At this time, the main character is in one of the rooms, but at the same moment someone comes to her and asks about her. What did she threaten the messenger with? The young lady asks what they're not discussing right away and what kind of absurd questions these are. The girl asks if they talk about the threats about the veterinarian. She has not threatened anyone. But the guy only suggests that she not lie, because they took her message 2 days ago, and he wonders if she really believes that he managed to deliver her letter, having covered an unimaginable distance in just 2 days, so let the girl look at his haggard face, because he lost half of his weight. The young lady then says that he is apparently a very talented messenger, but the captain only says how shameless she is. The messenger, with his last strength, hands over the letter and says he's brought it. The captain then suggests he not waste his energy on words, as he needs a rest. The young lady then takes the letter in her hands and says that the guy exceeded all her expectations, so he is a great guy. Well, the captain of the Knights once again asks if the lady has threatened him with anything, answers that she has not, and asks who they take her for. The blonde opens the letter and says that the letter did not come from a commoner, after which she claims it's from Frost Irving, a fairly well-known figure in certain circles, and she also had occasion to meet him. Anyway, I received a reply from him, and tomorrow night the black market will open its gates. River asks if the lady really managed to open this market with just one letter, and if Forrest Irving really helped. The girl replies that it wouldn't be difficult for him to open a black market, and he has a debt. The brunette wonders if this is connected to the price stabilization she mentioned earlier, and the young lady notes that it could be said that way. After which she says that as if nothing had happened, let them be ready, for tomorrow they set out on their journey. When the young lady leaves, the Duke asks what attire he should wear to such a place. The commander then suggests that His Grace go there himself. Well, the man replies no, and this time he'll go personally. The commander is about to say she's a crazy girl, but he pauses and asks if the Duke is worried about the people who hold a grudge against Rain. The man replies that he is too, but has a different reason. After all, they have to cover themselves just in case, because the black market should be the only illegal act they commit. After which he asks if the captain thinks that this girl will listen to him. The man then remembers how they don't get along and falls silent, but his master insists that they need to get ready. He also thinks that the hood will be enough to hide his identity, so now he will go and check with the magician. The Duke also asks if the man knows where he is now. The captain replies that he's most likely in the research room in the basement, after which the Duke says that it is good and he will be there soon, and the captain turns to his lordship with a little surprise. After which they wonder if he's really in a good mood. The next night, the main character stands in front of the Duke and looks him over, after which she asks what he is wearing. After this, the captain only gets angry and asks why the girl addresses his lordship informally. Rain replies that he himself allowed it, but the captain says, "What kind of senseless lie is this?" Because his lordship would never do this. However, the Duke claims that it is true. The man is shocked after this, and tells the brunette that the girl would not address him as a duke in such a dubious place. A man also realizes he likes it when a girl calls him informally. Meanwhile, the main character is wondering what to do, after which he tells the Duke to take off this ridiculous cloak with a hood, otherwise he will stand out even more. She also asks where he got it from, and the man replies that Max told him. He says that he always goes to the black market in a hood, but the girl replies that, given his character, he would also appear at his own wedding in a black cloak with a hood, so it would be much better without him. But then the young lady picks up dirt from the floor, and he smears the guy's face with it. After which he claims that since he is a hunter, it won't be a bad idea to stamp dirt on his face. The man is only surprised by this, and a little while later the girl finishes her work. She also says the guy looks just like Cinderella. The young man is a little surprised by this, and Rain replies that since she anointed him in the mud, it turns out that she is his godmother, although she then says no, and it's better for him to call her prince. After which the lady turns to the other knights and says she thinks they're not ready. The girl also believes Edmund doesn't need to disguise himself. The man then asks if she'll hide her ligament, to which she responds by asking why she's hiding it. For she will not allow hunting to stain her garment, for she is above it. After which the young lady takes the bags in her hands and says that we need to head forward towards adventure. Then they head to the black market. The Duke, seeing all this, is a little surprised. One of the knights claims that he cannot believe it. Not long ago it was deserted, but overnight everything was transformed. The man claims it's amazing, and the young lady says it looks like he didn't expect the scale to be so grand. To which he replies that there is such a thing. Well, then they also notice how other people look at the young lady, and the Duke asserts. What surprises them more is her fame, after which the young lady says that they may not even remember her. The girl also says that first, they need to get everything they need, and the money they took with them will be used for the down payment. The man then asks if they should sell the paraphernalia first, but the girl replies that only greenhorns do that. After which she also tells them to follow her, because she will show them everything and explain it to them. A little while later they enter one of the stalls, and the girl asks for 30 vests made of IDIIL skin. The man asks if she really needs 30, and she's charging a lot, so he asks who she's planning to sell it to. The girl then asks what's so upsetting to him and how much he's asking for it. The guy replies that he will give 30 pieces for 30 coins, but the young lady asks if he is joking. The man replies that he is gay and gives them away for cheap, practically for next to nothing, and if she doesn't like it then she should join and look elsewhere. The girl replies that fine, she'll do just that, and then tells Cinderella they're leaving. The man cries out, asking if she really intends to leave and let her name her price. The young lady then offers 17, and they haggle further, after which the man exclaims what a pain she is. And he will sell it to her for 20, but nothing less, after which the young lady tells him to measure out 30 pieces for them. And when they leave, the man screams so that his eyes will never see this swindler again. At this time, the Duke is wondering what the point is in this. Why did she suddenly start buying everything and then selling it? The young lady at this time only speaks of 3 gold coins, after which the Duke is a little surprised, and the girl replies that they will sell their attribute and these vests made of idol skin will go for 3 gold. After all, these people will get wind that they have some money and will double the price. But she had already been burned by this trick and learned a lesson. The girl also says that, be that as it may, she suggests stocking up on weapons and traps for monsters, after which she tells Cinderella not to lag behind. A short time later, the young lady hands someone some coins and claims she'll deliver the rest as soon as they receive the goods. The guy replies that they'll ship everything by tomorrow, but he wonders where they are ordering it to be sent. To which the young lady notes that it is to a hut on the road to the Nifel Gorge between the border zone and the village. After this, the guy asks if they really consider the Rock a gang of robbers. And he asks why she needs so many weapons, but the young lady looks at him coldly after that. The guy screams that whatever the reason, it doesn't concern him, after which he wishes them a good evening. And the main character only says that this is how the curious barbarian's nose was torn off. At this time, the main character approaches her colleagues and tells them to take it easy, because they won't be able to hold such a heavy weight with their frail little hands. She also claims that everything seems to have been purchased, and all that remains is to sell the item, after which she tells Cinderella and Edmund to wait there while she goes to make the deal. Clive then asks why the girl calls him Cinderella, whatever that means, but the girl replies that she cannot call him Winterlock and that this is his secret name. Well, the man then says that the name looks too much like a girl's name, and the young lady thinks that he is smarter than she thought. The guy then suggests calling him simply Clive instead. The young lady is a little embarrassed after this, and she is about to call the guy by his name but wonders if she can address the Duke by his name. After which she finally calls him and thinks what an unusual feeling she has, because when she called him Winterlock, there was no such strange feeling, and now she has the feeling as if they have become closer. But she is quite happy with this, and the girl thinks that this is how she calls her favorite by name, and it is not surprising that some fans pit their idols against each other. After which the young lady says that he can also call her by name, or also states that she has gone, and they can follow, but let them keep their distance. The girl also says that they better pretend that they have no idea who Ella Rain is, after which they move on, and at the same moment everyone is whispering whether this is the same Ella Rain. The Duke understands that this girl attracts the attention of everyone around her and finds herself in such a situation. She seems completely different from the one he knew all this time, because the Rain he knows is different. Well, then the guy also thinks that he will not forget his head with empty thoughts. Well, as he moves on, he suddenly hears someone angrily calling the young lady's name. The Duke then turns around, and the knight asks his lordship what happened, to which he replies that nothing. But then he also thinks who it is. And this man said the girl's name with obvious malice. He also recalls how one of the knights asked why she made a deal to take the axe, and the girl replied that it was a good question. After which she replied that there were several people on the black market who were ready to put her into eternal sleep at any moment. So now the Duke starts running, very worried about the young lady. The girl opens the bag at this moment, and she tells people to keep in line because she will sell it to the highest bidder, after which she will ask who is ready to buy it. One of the guys shouts that if this is really a carpet claw, then he will take 1 for 20, after which a crush ensues. The young lady simply wonders who they think she is and whether they really think she's a simpleton. Then the girl tells them not to even hope, but at that very moment someone offers a bet of 1 gold coin, and he claims that he will buy everything for 1 gold coin, after which he also says that they finally met. But he had been waiting for their meeting. The young lady was surprised after this, but still wondered who he was. After all, he doesn't look like a fellow villager. And then the girl starts listing some names. But then he suddenly says that he is the same impudent man who once challenged her. People in the crowd at this time say that the clothes and emblem look familiar. After which someone asks if he's a gala. The main character asks what it is. She also understands that about 3 years ago, shortly after Rain's miraculous transfer to this mysterious world, the girl burst into one of the eateries and asked if they were the notorious galas. After that, one of them asked what she was talking about, and the other told his brother. This is the same Ella Rain everyone's been gossiping about. The girl asked if they'd really decided to plunge into eternal sleep, and instead rob honest people like dastardly bandits. She then claims that in this rotten society, the only place for a fair price is the black market, but who are they to set prices as they please? One of them then asked what this crazy woman was talking about, after which the young lady said that she had been stupid. After all, words are of little use with this rabble, so we will have to teach them some sense. She also wonders if there's anyone among them who understands the invisible hand. This metaphor is a creation of the great Adam Smith, a luminary of economics, and that's what it meant, in his mind. However, for Rain, it wasn't just a figure of speech, because her hand truly was invisible, as if it had vanished into thin air, and since there were no severed bodies, there were no casualties. But terrible nightmares tormented the Gallus family every night. Now the man claims that much time passed, but they overcame these unfortunate hardships and were able to be reborn. Well, after this, the main character only tells him to stop his empty talk, but let him admit that after that skirmish, order reigned on the black market, and they decided not to show up there so she didn't break the agreement. The girl also says that it was a long time ago, so he should forget and stop trashing her name for no reason, because soon he will make a hole in it. The guy with purple hair then tells the girl to shut up and go there to dig up the carpets, because if she does so, he will generously turn a blind eye to her former tyranny against them. And of course, if it's the real thing, not a pathetic fake. At that very moment, someone jumps on the young lady from behind, after which the guy claims that her last hour has come, because if she hadn't shown up there as he asked, then everything would have been fine with her. But at that very moment, the guy is shocked because the girl is already standing on the man who attacked her. She also says that she thinks the guy forgot that she came to sell Corey's claws, and he thinks that he will get at least 30 gold pieces for them because it would be a shame to waste them for a measly coin. After this, the guy only gets angry, and then runs away and screams for the girl to fall into eternal sleep. The main character starts fighting with him and says that all he's good at is talking, after which she wonders where that evil day that threatened to plunge her into eternal sleep went. But after this, the guy only screams for her to finally fall into eternal sleep, after which several more people attack the girl. But at that very moment, someone repels their attack and asks how these dishonest creatures are not ashamed. Did they really decide to attack a defenseless girl in a crowd? The young lady asks if that's Clive, and the other guy screams, "Where did he come from?" And judging by his lush clothes, he is from a wealthy family, so the guy is wondering if his knightly spirit has awakened. But he will regret his insolence. After which someone screams out so that he doesn't beg for mercy when they deal with him. At this time, Wayne is also walking through the market. He sees a crowd of people and wonders if he's too late to help. Well, when the guy approaches there, he is a little surprised because he sees a guy with purple hair trying to hit a lady. But that trick evades and says that his blow is good, but something is still missing. After this, the guy only says what a scoundrel she is, but the young lady speaks. It's a strange feeling to fight people after so many battles with monsters, which makes her opponent even more angry. The guy then asks how long they've been messing around like this, and someone else says that she has inhuman strength, so why doesn't she knock him out with one blow? Wayne at this time says that the lady knows how to surprise him, and she is an incredible girl. After which, the guy suddenly hears someone scream and turns around, and then they see a person lying down, next to which stands a brunette, after which the guy thinks, what kind of person is this, because he looks familiar. He wonders who it was, but the main character immediately ends this useless fight, and she also tells this unfortunate person to go to sleep, after which she looks at all these lying people, and he says that they had a good time, after which he suggests continuing their interesting trade. A little while later, the girl is already looking at a whole fur coat of money, after which she says that they will see each other again. Then someone asks if she will come again, and the young lady replies that of course, and asks if he really thought that she would stop there, because she would smoke up some more monster attributes and return there. After which someone asks if she is really saying that there will be more attributes, and where is she anyway, and forward, but another turns to him and tells the guy to think before asking. The girl claims that she will hunt in the canyons near Nifel, because the canyon has no owner, so if anyone else wants to hunt, they can go, it doesn't matter to her, and she even thinks it would be more profitable for her if they came. Then someone asks if they can hunt too, but someone else asks what kind of profit she's talking about. The young lady then replies that by drinking human red liquid, the monsters will become larger. After which, people get scared. When the main character moves on, she says that it seems like the gentleman standing next to her even started crying. Wayne asks, what about Angelique? Because she, sobbing, said that this crazy woman will not fall into eternal sleep even in this canyon. He also asks if the girl saw those crimson faces, to which you respond that she doesn't care, after which the guy says that she's still just as heartless. The young lady claims that only idiots would cry over such things, but Wayne claims that thanks to her words, no one would even think of going into the canyon. He also claims that he heard that there are not enough people at the border, to which the girl replies that maybe so, but she does not need the help of such idiots. In general, it would be a blessing if they didn't immediately start screaming to be saved, because if they're such weaklings, they wouldn't last even a couple of minutes in this canyon. After which the young lady also wonders why the guy is there. Because if you tell anyone that Mariah Wayne is on the black market, no one will believe it. The guy replies that it's a weird question. And Ella, after all, is opening a black market, so how could he miss that? Most people would freak out as soon as they found out. Well, after that, the guy says that apparently he didn't have to come, after which he asks who that man is. The girl asks who he is talking about, after which Wayne suggests that she not pretend not to know Bhutan, because he is the one who beat up Gallus gang. The girl replies that she has no idea, but Wayne says that she is lying because he is sure, as he saw them exchanging glances. Rain tells the guy not to talk nonsense, and asks how long he plans to follow her, because she has to return to the border detachment, so he should also leave quickly. But the guy tells her to be quieter because someone is following them, and the main character wonders if it could be one of the Gallas, or someone else. But at that very moment, the guy who was following them shouts Rain's name. He asks where she is going, since the border detachment is in the other direction, after which the young lady just clicks her tongue. And then they claim that they just had to pretend they didn't notice anything, so how else could she get rid of this idiot who doesn't take a hint? The guy with blue hair then screams at the skin she called him, and after all, you have to look for such a memorable person as he, and after all, he was also worried about her. After which the young man also addresses the commander and says this is their first meeting. He also claims to be Rain's colleague and a monster hunter. The commander of the border guards also introduces himself and then claims that he is the captain of the border detachment. The young man is then only surprised and asks if Rain herself hadn't opened the black market. The main character says that she and this commander simply followed her, after which she turns to her friend and asks why he doesn't stop acting like an idiot and run off into the fog. She also accompanies him and says that it is already late, and she will write to him about the rest. At that moment, the Duke approaches the young lady and addresses her. The blue-haired boy cries out that it was, indeed, that man. But he knew they knew each other. The main character only sighs and turns to Clive. The young man with blue hair approaches him and asks if that is really his name, and he also asks if the guy's from the border detachment, to which he replies that he is not. But then the young man takes a closer look and realizes that it is the Duke, after which he falls silent. But a second later he cries out, "Is that Duke Clive Winterlock?" The man replies that it is true. The guy with blue hair at this time says that Rain just called him Clive, to which he replies that that is true. Wayne at this time repeats in his thoughts that the girl is abnormal and he knew it, but to address the nobility like that is already too much. The Duke at this time realizes that they sold the monsters' attributes and bought good equipment, so thanks to this, their budget increased. But he still thinks why he has such a bad feeling, after which he also thinks about his sister. At this moment, the girl wakes up and jumps out of bed. At that very moment, someone addresses their mistress. It turns out to be the nanny, and she claims that the lady seems to have had a nightmare, to which she replies that she had a bad dream about her brother falling into eternal sleep. After this, the woman takes the girl by the hands and tells her not to worry, because it was just a dream. Well, the brunette asks, what if this thing is a dream? After which the nanny replies that it is just a dream and just next time. Let the lady slap the gentleman, and then wake up, drink a glass of water, and go to bed again. But then the woman sees a terrifying book on the shelf about the meaning of dreams. The woman immediately takes the book and claims that she will tell the owner of the book about this, after which he leaves altogether. And then the young lady hears the nanny in the hallway screaming, "Where did the mistress get that damn book?" The man then cries out, "Did the lady really have this book?" and then apologizes. At this time, the lady with black hair realizes that she herself asked for this book. But at that very moment, something appears behind the young lady. The next day, Wayne is sitting in the border guard camp. He introduces himself, after which the commander, the knights, and the Duke claim that he has seen him somewhere before. Then the man also says that the guy is the second hunter to stand out during the inspection after the crazy one. After which he says that he blurted out, and he also apologizes and says that he meant abnormal, or rather. The blue-haired finger continues at this point and asks if he is talking about Rain. The man then asks if the man they've just met is a reasonable person and if they should have chosen him. He then asks why the guy is there. The young man replies that he'd heard rumors that Rain was opening a black market, so he was worried. Wayne says that, as he expected, upon arrival, he witnessed Rain enthusiastically harassing Gallus. The man says everything is business as usual. After which his interlocutor replies that she will not answer, neither did she. She created a mess. The knight commander wonders who else could have done this besides the abnormal one, and the guy with blue hair claims the man was covered in soot, so he didn't understand. The man then says it's the Duke, and the guy says he thought it was a joke when Rain called him by his name. But the knight captain cries out, asking if she really called him by his given name, and not Winterlock. The young man replies that yes, she's wondering if she's even called him by his last name before. After which, silence falls between them. A short time later, the boy finds himself in the Duke's office. He asks if Wayne wants to stay with them, to which the guy replies that yes, and if possible, he'd like to accompany them. But the brunette replies that he's afraid he doesn't understand the guy, and then asks why he's volunteering for this dangerous mission. The blue-haired youth replies that this is a chance to help the party and the Duke, as well as gain experience from respected knights. But the dark-haired man replies that this is a lie, after which the guy gives in and replies that, yes, he lied because he's just worried about rain. And he's afraid it won't just be the gallows. The Duke then asks what the guy is talking about, and he asks if he thinks that the girl managed to annoy only the gallows. After all, they are only the beginning, and if all these people gather together for the next auction at the market, they will not get off so easily, and the Imperial Guard may even have to be brought in. The man replies that it's a difficult situation, although Wayne then asks who's afraid of these simpletons anyway, but then he immediately shuts his mouth. The Duke tells the boy not to worry, because as long as he doesn't openly criticize the Crown Prince like some do, everything is fine. At this time, the main character is arguing on the street with the commander, and the guy with blue hair is wondering if the girl really criticized the Crown Prince right in front of the Duke, after which he inquires how the young lady survived to her age. But in general, he claims he can help identify enemies if they appear, and try to resolve everything verbally. After which the brunette says the guy is quite confident. He replies that he and Rain have been hanging out together for 3 whole years. The Duke then says, okay, the guy's hired. He also orders the garrison commander to assign him a room. The blue-haired youth is delighted and thanks his master, but then he gets up and says that since he is there, he can willingly help. But the man tells him not to bother. After all, no one, except for the knights and the border guards, no one will hunt monsters. The same applies to Rain. Wayne is surprised by this, and a short time later he is already standing next to the young lady. And he understands that, even though he said so, he is still wondering if they really won't do it. The girl then asks him if he thinks they have a choice. He then says he doesn't believe it, because banning Rain herself from hunting would be too much. But he still wonders why he did it, and whether it was simply because they are civilians. To which the lady replies that it seems so. She also claims that one can only intervene if there is a threat to the knightly squad, and that's all. At this point, one of the knights approaches the lady and asks if they are really allowed to wear this armor. The girl replies yes, and wonders what else it's used for. After all, this is just basic equipment, and let them tell her if she needs anything else. She'll buy it next time. The knights immediately thank the lady. But she says that if they are so grateful, then she can expose herself on the next hunt so that she can intervene and help, after which they say how cruel she is. The blonde claims that even if they can't do it, she will soon forget how to hunt, although they have already learned to catch monsters themselves. The girl steps forward and insists it's a tragedy. Meanwhile, the Duke is in his office, wondering how this could have happened. He looks at the book and wonders if they really said that the monster came through the window, and that means this creature was flying. Someone who can not only fly but also see a target behind glass, after which he sees such a monster in a book. It's called Trister. This monster is 5 meters long from head to tail, and it dives from high above and attacks people with its sharp beak at incredible speed. After which the man says that this seems to be true, but he realizes that the skin itself is not hard, but the whole body is covered in mucus. Cleaning it like quarry would be problematic, so he thinks it's good that there's already a lot of information about monsters there. But it's still a pity that there is no way to learn how to deal with those that have not yet been encountered. For example, the monster he is looking at now is a flying monster covered in caustic slime. The man wonders how difficult it will be to chop off his head and what to do with him. At this moment, someone enters the Duke's office, and he says they've allocated a room for Wayne. The man replies that's good, then asks why the captain is so pleased and whether he really liked this guy. He replies that he is very reasonable, and he thinks that this young man will calm down that crazy woman a little. He also claims that these two are still friends, and the girl, of course, says that he irritates her, but at the same time does not push her away. The Duke thinks for a moment and then asks if they gave the mage the ingredients they bought on the black market. The man replies that he did, and as soon as he saw them, he snatched everything and immediately disappeared. The brunette replies that it's good, and the captain, watching him, wonders what kind of facial expression this is and what kind of abrupt change of topic this is, after which he turns to the Duke and asks if something is wrong. But at the same time, the man is very surprised. After all, he sees the monster written about in the book flying towards him. Brunetta turns to River, and he screams for him to immediately inform everyone and bring the magician there, to which he agrees. And the Duke, looking out the window, realizes it's Trister. At this time, beyond the western border, the main character also notices this monster, after which she screams for everyone to disperse, because he will aim at the places of concentration. At that moment, a guy with blue hair runs up to the young lady and asks how to destroy this monster, since he hasn't fought them yet. The young lady replies that she doesn't know yet either, and that time he simply crashed to the ground. After which, the guy simply curses and hands the girl his sword. The young lady asks if he bought it on the black market, and he insists it's better than an axe. After all, it's a critical moment, to which the young lady agrees. Meanwhile, inside the fortress, one of the knights shouts for Catherine to go to the command center with the remaining troops. Tell Lisa to check the number of wounded inside the fortress. At that moment, someone turns to Sir Sharon. It turns out it's the Duke, and he's asking where the commander is. The guy then yells that the commander is there and points at him. The man carries the magician on his back, and he only cries out that he said that he could get there himself, so let him put him down. The commander of the knights then says that it doesn't matter and let him do something. But the young man replies that he doesn't know how to attack, after which the man asks what he can do. To which he replies that he doesn't even know, and can try to hypnotize the birds around, although it won't really be an attack. But if they collide, then this can help, after which the magician says that it seems he can. He also needs to change the formula a little, after which the commander asks how many casualties it will take, to which the guy replies 5 minutes. River claims that this is excellent, and to have another knight guard him while he adjusts the formula. A little while later, someone shouts that the barricade is open, and someone else shouts for everyone to get inside, except for those who are following the Duke's orders. The girl also starts counting down, but then asks where the other two are, after which everyone hears the monster approaching. The border guard captain asks where Rain is going, as they need to retreat. But the young lady only jumps to the floor and then cuts down the monsters in the air, but wonders if there are more there. After which, she sees one of them fly past the barricades and curse. At that very moment, someone turns to the young lady and tells her to go there. The girl does so, after which she climbs up the stairs and wonders if these are the Tristers. At this time, the border guard commander points to 2 monsters, and the main character looks at this in shock. The girl also turns around and looks for the Duke, but he only screams for everyone to take cover and stop the attack. At this point, the young lady, with shaking hands, understands that it is dangerous to continue the battle, because there are already so many casualties in such a short period of time. Clive ordered everyone to retreat and take refuge in the fortress, but at that very moment, the border guard commander cried out to Ella, and he asks if this is the same monster as last time, after which he wonders if the monster that attacked then was Trister. The young lady replies that, yes, these monsters are driving everyone into the building, but that doesn't save you from them, because if you take cover, it's only easier for them. The guy then says that, yes, even if everyone crams into the shelter, they will be able to fight back, after which the young lady understands that in open areas, the knight is a target, and inside a building there is no way to hide from this monster. Well, if it turns out that the Duke is doomed, then the girl thinks that it no longer matters how the ending of the novel changes, and even her fantastic feeling does not play a role. After all, Clive Winterlock is more than just a character for her, after which the lady understands that she needs to do something. She also thinks that since it is a flying monster, it will be helpless on the ground, and there is only one way out. After which the main character claims that she is going down, and also tells the commander to help the wounded. After all, she'll deal with this monster. The guy tells her to wait, and asks how the lady will do it, but she only coldly says that she will not accept any objections. A short time later, the commander approaches the Duke, and he screams in shock, asking where is Rain, she should be with him. The guy replies that the girl went to the barricade and said she had a plan, after which he also says, here she is. The Duke, meanwhile, wonders what her plan is, after which the main character just screams for this red waffle to fly at her. The monster does so, and the Duke wonders if this is really her plan. While the monster flies toward the young lady, she tries to discern where he has the magic stone. The girl understands that they haven't been able to find him yet, but she has to come up with something because her baby is in danger. After which, the main character finally sees this magic stone, but wonders if it is really that deep. Now she understands why they couldn't find him, But at this time, the Duke turns to the young lady and cries out that it is dangerous. However, when the monster attacks the young lady, she immediately dodges. The man cries out that now is not the time to count crows, so she should come down quickly. The young lady doesn't listen to him, so he heads toward her himself. Meanwhile, the girl dodges the monster's blow once again, after which he catches the right moment and swings his sword, and also wounds the monster. But when it continues to fly, the girl wonders if she really missed, but still understands that at least she was able to stay on it. So all that's left is to somehow break the stone, while she's still wondering what that burning smell is. At this time, the Duke screams for the girl to come down, because she won't last long. He also shouts that these monsters are covered in caustic acid, so let her hold on to the monster's head because there is less of this acid there. At this time, the main character looks at her shoes and asks if they are melting. The young lady realizes she can't descend so easily from such a height. But then she realizes she needs to pull herself together, after which the girl takes out her axe and hits the monster with it, causing it to fall. The young lady grabs the sword and then screams at the monster that they will still see who will win. At this time, the Duke runs up to the captain and says how good it is that he is okay, but the man cries out that he needs a bird. The magician then asks what he's talking about, and whether the gentleman is really planning to fly. But the man just shakes the guy and tells him to do it faster. Then the guy asks why so abruptly, and asks where Rain is. Meanwhile, the main character is still trying to put the monster into eternal sleep. The magician then immediately begins conjuring the bird and creates it. He exclaims that he's slightly altered the formula for its creation, and he can fly higher than usual. Well, the man tells the boy to make a bird that can also fly higher. That's not enough. The magician asks what he is talking about and says that it is dangerous, but the commander of the knights shouts at him to do as the Duke orders. The man understands that he probably wants to fly to Rain, and of course, the Duke is taking a big risk if something goes wrong. The monster may grab him, but one cannot ignore the fact that the informal one is in trouble because of their weakness. After which the man says, okay, and first let the guy lead him to Trista as close as possible but quieter. After all, if he notices, trouble will follow, which the magician agrees to. After which the man turns to Sharon, and he tells him to follow him, because they will be covering the Duke from below. The guy agrees to this, after which they move on, and the man thinks that at least all this will work out. At this time, the Duke flies up to the young lady and addresses her, after which the girl asks where he came from. But the man only tells her to come down as soon as he gives the signal. The main character asks if she should go, and he understands that this is not a bad idea and of course she could use his help, but now is not possible. After which the girl screams that now is not the time to destroy the stone of this monster. The brunette is surprised by this and screams for her to drop it, because her shoes are almost melted. The girl understands that this problem has already eaten away at the dogs and that the acid will soon reach their feet. After which the young lady finally sees this stone and hits it with all her strength, causing it to break and the monster to begin to fall. The main character also loses her balance and falls off. The young lady realizes that at this rate she could fall into eternal sleep. Well, then she sees the Duke, who extends his hand to her and screams for the girl to grab it. The young lady does so, after which they descend to the ground. A short time later, the knights run up to the two and ask if they are all right. But at that very moment, someone else runs up to them and asks if they have seen Rain and if she is okay. The boy shakes the commander with all his might and screams, "Where is Rain?" The main character responds and claims she's fine. The girl also tells this idiot not to grab people, after which the young man lets the commander go. And he goes to the young lady and also says that thank God she is safe. But he almost had a heart attack while watching her fall. The Duke looks at his hand and remembers how he grabbed the girl's hand with it. He was so scared he might not have grabbed it in time. So now he says that he is so glad that it worked out, but at the same moment, the commander turns to the Duke, after which he asks how many are wounded, to which River replies that 16 people were wounded, but they are curable with potions, and only 5 knights have serious injuries. Lance quickly used his elixirs, so there is no threat to their lives, but it is still better to take them to the capital for a full examination. The brunette then asks if this means that all the hunters are alive, to which he replies that there is one person who was seriously wounded in the first attack. And since he couldn't move on his own, he was taken to a shelter, so he sent knights to see how he was doing. The Duke then says they're all doing well and should have been better prepared for situations like this. The man also asks where the monster fell and suggests they find it. Wayne, meanwhile, tells Rain to stay there and let him treat her. He also tells Lance to stop whining. At this time, the main character examines the monster and asks if his claws are worth anything. The blue-haired guy asks if that's really all she's interested in right now. She replies that of course, and it's better for them to be as expensive as possible, since they still have to pay for the building renovations in case he didn't get it. The young lady also swears and asks how this monster had to fall with his carcass right on the fortress. The Duke, watching all this, only smiles, and a few days later the knights begin repairs. The Duke is in his office at this time, after which he turns to look out the window. He realizes they all survived the monster's attack safely, and aside from the wounded, everyone was involved in the repairs. However, even if they sell all the monster's paraphernalia, it will be difficult to cover the repair costs. The man also writes down in his book how to defeat this monster. He also recalls telling the lady to come down when he gave the signal, but the girl replied that his stone needed to be destroyed. Now the man thinks that she couldn't have known in advance, but if his guess is correct, then filling out their directory will only become easier, because the problem is how to tell Rain about it. At that moment, someone turns to the Duke and he tells the man behind the door to come in. It turns out to be the captain of the knights, and he insists that's the case, but at that very moment the main character bursts into the office and screams at Clive. After this, the man says what a wretch she is, because he said to wait until he reports to the Duke, but the young lady screams how long can she wait? The man replies that as much as is required from the Duke, he only suggests that they calm down. He also asks what Rain wanted to say, after which she only smirks. And he claims the time has come to fulfill that promise. The man asks what promise, but the young lady immediately cries out for him not to pretend he's forgotten. After all, he said that if the knights got injured, then she would be able to hunt monsters, and right now they had a lot of wounded people. The walls were suffering, and there wasn't much money for them, so it was time for her to go hunting. The Duke then turns to the commander and tells him to check if the mage is still there, and if Trista has Leon, and if so, to take him to the lab. The man then asks if the master is really sending him away now, and he realizes that this is indeed the case, after which the commander is shocked. He leaves, dejected, and realizes that the Duke seems to be starting to resemble Rain. At this time, the girl wonders why Clive sent him away and whether something is wrong. After which the guy states that he wants to ask her a question and asks the young lady what it is. The Duke asks if she accidentally sees the monsters, magic stones. The young lady is a little surprised by this and then asks what he is talking about. Soon after Rain woke up in her new body, she began fighting monsters. When the blue-haired guy hit one of them, the young lady screamed out what he was doing, after which she told him to hit him on the head because the stone was there, but the young man only asked what she was talking about. The main character then screamed again that there was a stone there, after which she said that the guy should not say anything, that this stone should not be touched because of its value. To which he replied that that was not the issue and asked where the girl had seen him. After that, Rain began hiding her sight of the magical stones. It was instinctive self-defense. And a justified distrust? Well, most likely she wanted to preserve her power to influence the original. The girl understands that if she tells, they will start to dig into her, and it would be bad to change the established reality of the novel, The End of the Abyss. Rain didn't want to become a hero or sacrifice herself for science, which is why she chose to hide her abilities until recently. The Duke asked the young lady if she could see the monsters, magic stones, and she understood that it was no longer possible to hide it. She still wonders why he thinks she sees stones. The man replies that usually, when you see a monster for the first time, you move it into its head, since that's the only way to put it into eternal sleep. Unless you accidentally break the stone, and only then do you dismantle the monster and look for where the stone is hidden. After that, you already know where exactly it's best to hit the next time you meet. But when he looked at the body of this monster, he noticed that they didn't even try to chop off the head. And the cuts were right in the right place, so he thought that she had special abilities that they didn't know about. The young lady thinks that there is no point in making excuses, and that it won't work there by chance. But, fortunately, the Duke is not the kind of person who will chat about this, after which she says that he is right and wonders what next. The man then hands her a book and tells her to take a look. The young lady wonders if this is the same reference book about monsters. The brunette replies that yes, it is filling up quickly, but it is still far from finished. She will have to continue hunting, but as she knows, this attack has put many hunters out of action, so insisting on removing the guides from the hunt any longer is pointless. Therefore, it is necessary to terminate the conductor's contract and sign a new one, after which the man asks if she agrees. He also hands over this contract and tells the girl to read it and then sign it. The young lady asks if he added anything strange, and when she joins the squad, she always reads every page of the rules and conditions. The man replies that he doesn't understand what it's about, and that there's only one page, so let her read as much as she wants. The main character does so after this, but then wonders what it is. And what's with that ridiculous point about hunting with Clive Winterlock himself? Well, the man's just wondering what's wrong. After which the young lady replies that, firstly, she can hunt alone, and secondly, he is safer there than with her. The Duke replies that he knows she can hunt alone. He realized that during Treaster's attack. That Rain has the necessary skills for hunting and unique abilities, but still, she has no knowledge about the newest monsters, after which the main character just gets angry and asks what he is talking about. The man replies that there are a lot of monsters around which, like the Tristers, it is not yet clear how to fight, and if she attacks thoughtlessly, she can get hurt, and she also needs someone who will tell her about new monsters, so this point won't change. The young lady thinks she understands, but she's still afraid to take him with her, because he will potentially fall into eternal sleep, but now the girl is thinking how to explain this. At this time, the man says that if she doesn't want to, then there is one option, after which the main character asks which one, and the guy puts a pile of papers on the table and claims that these are records of all known abilities of monsters. Everything is described there, except for the fighting methods, and if she learns all of this, he's ready to waive that point. The young lady then just sighs and asks where to sign, and also understands that she is definitely in trouble. The emperor at this time is in his palace and claims that this cannot be, since the Duke remained alive. He also asks if this is possible and if he hasn't started hunting monsters yet, to which his interlocutor replies that he has, and the blonde says that he definitely won't shirk with such a stubborn character. His interlocutor then asks if it is possible that the order protects him, to which His Highness replies that it is likely, but he still does not think that they are so strong. And he's clearly being assisted by someone very powerful. His Highness's interlocutor asks if he has any clues, to which he replies that he has too much. After all, the entire empire is teeming with old rats. They pretend to be loyal to the imperial family, but who knows when they might decide to stab him in the back and drag that old man out of the grave. Or he might decide to spout nonsense, like the Marquis of Lenin. His Majesty's interlocutors ask if he's really talking about a new generation, and the blonde just claims that it's not funny to spread all these rumors in front of the last of the Asolanos family. Well, it turns out that the rumors have died down a bit. After this, the guy takes a red stone out of the box and says that we should visit the western border. He hands this stone to his interlocutor and tells him to go and find out who is putting a spoke in their wheel. The man in the cloak claims that if it is a wizard, he will surely notice him, because the waves of the magic stone are hard to hide. But the emperor replies that it doesn't matter, because he will plunge into eternal sleep anyway, as soon as he finds out everything. At this time, someone asks the lady if he can come in, after which the girl tells him to come in. And when a man does this, the young lady wonders if a letter has arrived from her brother. After this, the butler simply shakes his head and replies that no, after which he apologizes. The young lady says he has nothing to apologize for, but then she is silent for a moment. The man asks if he should call a doctor and maybe he should examine the lady again, but he replies that there is no need and that she is fine, and that she was just nervous because of that psycho. The man then wants to object, but the young lady immediately turns to him, and he claims that she said she was fine because it was all nerves, and because of the workload. The girl also asks how her brother managed to do it all, then tells him not to worry, because she'll rest, and everything will be fine, so he can go. He agrees and leaves the room. Meanwhile, the young lady opens the chest of letters, and she understands that she took out and read her brother's letter every time she was worried and it became worn out, but she really felt better about it. Although she received the title of Deputy Duke, it is difficult for her because she cannot compare with Clive. In this letter, the guy addressed his dear little sister and asked if everything was okay with her, since she was probably all in work because of him. He also warned the girl not to overdo it. Meanwhile, the main character is fighting the monster, commenting on how shameless he is and wondering if he even has a cooldown. The Duke asks what the hell he's doing there, but the young lady just tells him to forget about it, they brought him there. And no one would ever buy such a game. The Duke then asks this question, and then realizes he hasn't understood anything. In a letter to his sister, he wrote that he had recently arrived at the western border, and before that, they had hired a guide named Rain from the nearest hunting village. At this time, the main character dodges the fire and then curses at the monster. The Duke at this time turns to the young lady and says that Jigglester has a short neck so that he cannot water above his head. Better to take a higher ground, like a tree. The young lady cries out, wondering if he's just now telling her this. And she wouldn't dodge then, she'd just jump over it. But the guy replies that it's impossible, because it's impossible to jump over that monster. The young lady at that moment runs towards the monster and then jumps up. Their Duke is very worried about her. But the young lady only lands on the monster and then says that the stone is at the tip of its tail. Although Rain often does something out of the ordinary, thanks to her, hunting and training go smoothly. The young lady then says that this stone is exactly in the center of the peak at the tip of the creature's tail, so let the finger shoot quickly before this creature sets it on fire. The Duke then fired, and the monster fell. In a letter to his sister, he also wrote that the garrison was in dire straits due to a lack of funds, but fortunately they had managed to sell the monsters' paraphernalia to at least supplement their budget and equipment. But to be honest, this is also thanks to Rain, and he's very grateful to her. He also thinks about it often. How lucky they were to have hired her as their guide. The young lady says they've earned a whopping 280 gold pieces. The guy then asks if this is the only reason she was soaring so high, and she replies that of course, they caught a monster that had been hiding for several days, and they also got an attribute in the form of scales. And she likes scales more than teeth or claws, because she always builds expensively, and that's perfect for the black market. The guy then says they found the money for the repairs and how he promised to keep all the proceeds from his sale and not split them. After this, the main character says that then she will do everything down to the last scale, after which the Duke smiles. He also approaches the young lady and wants to help, but she just asks where he put his hands, since this monster is still hot. However, Gerda says that she does the same thing. The young lady replies that she is a pro at this, and he had better take care of his puny little hand. After which he says that is let him not climb in any case, but the man only continues to take apart the scales. The main character then says that it really isn't necessary, after which she turns to the Duke again. And she claims she was so busy with the monster that she didn't hear what he said before she jumped on him. At this time, the Duke remembers how he said that it would be impossible to jump over this monster, but the girl did it. So now the man is a little embarrassed, and then says it doesn't matter. The main character asks if this is true, to which he replies that he was mistaken and offers her to go if the girl is finished. Rain asks if that same Clive Winterlock was mistaken and asks what the reason for the miscalculation was in the end. The guy only understands that the answer is the laws of physics, but says that the lady doesn't need to know that. In a letter to his sister, he also wrote that it had been a slow start, but he thought he would be able to return even earlier than planned, so she should not worry and say hello to the nanny and Albert as well. Now the guy's sister thinks that it's hard for him there and he must not have written earlier because he wanted to finish as quickly as possible, but this is really surprising. After all, that same Clive relies on someone else, and this is the same guy who brings people to tears by coping completely alone. And this guy not only relies on it but also praises her for something, and yet the girl thinks, who is this Ella Rain? Meanwhile, someone else is heading to the wagons and thinking it's true what they say, that money brings only trouble. He understands that his very presence gives him goosebumps, but he still wonders who this guy is. A little while later, the man was sitting in the tavern, but then someone came to him. He also asked if he was the owner of that carriage outside, because its owner urgently needed a crew for 3 days, so he asked if he would take it. The man understood that this guy, judging by his clothes, was rich, after which he claimed that yes, she was interested in how much they were willing to pay for the rental. The man replied that he would give 50 gold coins in 3 days, after which the man was surprised and realized that this was even more than he earns in a month, and did not understand where such a large amount of money came from. The stranger claimed that he needed to be taken to the western border, after which the man claimed that the road ahead would be dangerous, so he would have to pay extra for it, since this was a problematic place. After which the guy claimed he'd give them 20 coins for the risk. The man then stood up and didn't say anything about how he thought they'd work together. He also asked if the dispatch would really be right now and, if so, if they could move out. When they went outside, the man told the man to give him his luggage because he would put it in the carriage, but he replied that he had no luggage. The coachman was then a little surprised and asked what the gentleman would do for 3 days on the road, since if he planned to stop in some village, he would have to pay extra, but he replied that he did not plan to. The stranger also said that the man should take a replacement driver, since the trip required no breaks, and that he shouldn't worry about the passenger, since he should only take provisions for himself and the second driver. The man agreed to this, understanding that as long as he was getting paid, it didn't matter. After which this man suggested that they go. The man claimed that no one had yet sat in the carriage, to which he replied that this was how it should be, so let them get going. The guy handed over a bag of money and insisted it contained 50 gold pieces, and he'd pay the risk premium upon completion of the job, so they should hurry. I wanted to object to the coachman after that, but the man replied that he understood and would find someone else. After this, the man said no and that he was going, but now he understands that he should have refused back then, because he sensed something was wrong and could turn back right now. But then he realizes that he needs to get it together, because it's a whole 70 gold coins, and he'll just find the shortest route for them. A little while later, the main character goes with the Duke and says that they also did a good job today. At this time, the wizard also addresses them, and the young lady says that he is really shining, after which she wonders if something good has happened. The guy says that the monster attributes they brought are simply amazing, and they can't even imagine what results they were able to achieve with them. The young lady then says that they really can't, after which she places more monster pieces on the ground. And the wizard asks if this time they were brought in smaller numbers and of different types, so they are simply gods. At this time, the main character also claims that they still have the red liquid and the heart, but first it would be better if he gave her what he hid in his pocket, after which the guy asks what she is talking about. The main character replies that she's talking about the fangs he just stole, or maybe he forgot what they agreed on. He only gets the hearts and the red liquid, while the hunters get the horns and claws. The guy then simply says that it's a very important item. They contain a hallucinogenic poison. After this, the main character is going to bargain with the guy, and they reach 80 gold, at which point the guy says what a cheapskate she is. The young lady thanks him for the compliment, but tells him to return his fangs quickly, as this is his last warning. The guy then looks at the Duke, and he sighs, and tells him to take one, after which the magician says that the Duke is the best. After this, the main character only gets angry and screams, "Is he really doing this again?" When the man leaves, the young lady turns to the Duke and claims they've already discussed this. But the man replies, "It's just one click." But the young lady then screams that if only one had done this kind of thing 5 times already. After which she also tells the Duke to listen, because if this happens again. But when the girl looks at the guy's face, she starts to stutter and thinks that using her face is against the rules. At that very moment, someone cries out to the Duke and tells him to move away from her, because just the sight of her ruins his vision. He also cries out that he's already warned her not to mess with the Duke. And besides, it's not enough that they're just the two of them hunting monsters in a dangerous environment. The main character then asks why he's yelling like that, and if he's jealous, then let him say so. The main character then tells the man to take a photo of him, and the Duke will be with him, but he only asks what take a photo means. The brunette at this time tells them both to stop, and then turns to the captain, and also states that it is necessary to tell Sir Hagen to edit the directory. At this point, the man asks if this really needs to be done now, and the Duke does not sing to send him away in this way. Well, the brunette looks at him as if showing that everything is exactly like that, after which the man disgustingly leaves. The Duke turns to the young lady and asks what kind of letter it is, to which the girl replies that it is from Irving, and that he says that he will reopen the black market in a couple of days. The young lady also says that perhaps this will be the last collection, and that their reference book is almost finished, so maybe they will even leave some of the attributes, and then the knights will be able to sell them when they need money. The main character also asks if they will go hunting tomorrow at the same time, to which the guy replies that yes, well then he thinks about the last black market, and he claims that he owes the lady an apology for what happened earlier. After all, he agreed to the magician's request without even thinking, and without taking into account that the horns and fangs were hers by right. So he promises it won't happen again. The young lady is silent for a moment after this, and the Duke asks what's going on. And the main character says okay, because this is the last time she's forgiving him. The man then says that it's fine. And when he leaves, the young lady sighs and thinks that this could drive her crazy. She even wonders which of them is in greater danger. A short time later, Hogan claims that the reference book is almost complete. This is a huge improvement, considering they initially assumed the whole gang would collapse there. The Duke replies that this is correct, and Hogan claims that this little huntress has really helped them out, because even their captain recognizes her. The man claims that she is, of course, abnormal, but good, but then he claims that this is not what he wanted to say, so let them not tell anyone about it. Hogan then also states that he seems a little upset that the work will end so quickly, and he would like to go home himself, but as soon as they finish work there, they will not see that girl again. But when he thinks about the fact that they will never meet again, tears come to his eyes, and who would have known that he would be so touched? The Duke at this time thinks that they will not meet again, and realizes that Rain is just a huntress, whom they hired as a guide. Of course, returning home successfully should bring a surge of joy, but the guy wonders why he feels so bad at heart, and he cannot understand why he is so incredibly sad. Hogan asks the Duke at this time, "Did something happen?" A short time later, the main character is hunting monsters again. She screams that there is no end to them, and that first they will deal with those in front. After which the main character immediately destroys them all, and the Duke watches. The man then wants to address the young lady, but only cries out that he has a stone right on his face, after which the man agrees and shoots the monster. A short time later, the main character is already gathering materials. The guy asks what kind of gloves these are, and the young lady replies that Mac gave them to her out of absent-mindedness. These are gloves that don't let poison, acid, or heat through, and finally he created something worthwhile. But she thought he only wanted to steal attributes. The Duke then says that it is clear that the young lady asks if she can keep them for herself once everything is over. At this time, the man thinks that everything will end, and understands that as soon as they finish their work here, they won't see that girl again, after which the main character asks Clive what he will say, and he replies that of course, and the main character says it's wonderful, because frankly she's already mentally prepared to defend them with a fight. Well, if he decides to hold someone accountable for this, he should ask Sir River, because he can even beat him. After which the young lady says that's all, and they're heading back because they still need to make it to the black market. The guy then asks what about the black market. The guys express their desire to join him, after which he asks what the girl will say. The main character then asks who suggested this, and claims that she can only take 3 with her. It's him, Edmund, and the annoyingly clingy Wayne, and she's forced to take him, so now the young lady says she can't take more than 3. To which the man replies, "Okay, that's understandable." A little while later, the main character sees 3 people in front of her, and Mac claims that he was told that only 3 can go, so he will go instead of the Duke. The main character is surprised by this, and asks what he is talking about, after which she asks why the magician is there. The commander of the knights claims that they all wanted to go so much that the Duke gave up his place, and everything was decided by lot. At this time, one of the knights asks if the magician was cheating, but he says that everything is not so. At this time, someone else asks if she really is taking 3 people with her, but the girl understands that this is not what she meant, and Clive is too pedantic. After which she says that the squad captain must go. Wayne is an idiot, because he is directly involved in dealings with the gang. There's no point in the rest of us going there. The Duke then just looks sadly at the floor, and the main character realizes that if she thinks about it, this handsome guy isn't staying either, so she says okay, and they're all going. The girl thinks how hard it must be to refuse the cutie duke. One day, Mr. Roka, who was an ordinary hunter, went hunting as usual with his troop. Unfortunately, he somehow got separated from his squad and found himself alone in a place full of monsters. Mr. Raka tried to return to the squad as quickly as possible, but suddenly a monster jumped out of the bushes that he had not noticed. At that moment, Rain appeared and saved Mr. Rock, so he started baking local pies for her every weekend. And Roka isn't the only one. The Duke tells the young lady that they've gotten a bit estranged. The girl replies that she knew it would be like this and should have cut off that idiot's gun with an axe a long time ago, because no matter how much she told him that the black market is illegal and not just a night market, it was all useless. The man insists that something else will happen when they get there, because the black market will look even less like itself, but the young lady replies that she doesn't even want to think about it. At this point, the brunette says that at least these stories are interesting, since it's rare that someone is called a hero so often. The young lady then says that she didn't want to save him because that guy was just in front of the monster who was trying to put him into eternal sleep. That's how it turned out, and she's completely silent about the pies, because how can you eat them when you know there's monster meat in them? So she's no hero and didn't help out of the kindness of her heart. But the Duke asks what difference it makes, what prompted her to help. Of course, for some people this is important, but for most people the most important thing is the result. So no matter what prompted her to join their squad, everyone is very grateful to her. The young lady then asks if it really doesn't matter what drives her and what she thinks, and that he knows that her intentions were impure, and that she was too loud in her fandom. The guy then insists that he thinks Wayne thinks so too. The main character then becomes a little embarrassed, and she thinks that it is so unexpected. But she felt like a sailboat carried away by a tsunami, a feeling she has never experienced before, and the girl thinks how beautifully he smiles. After which he goes on to say that you can go crazy like that, and also thinks that beauty is harmful to your health. At this time they come to the black market, and the main character says that they have arrived. At that moment, someone asks Rain if she really came to such a cool place without them. Sharon replies that this is true, and he feels betrayed, but the young lady asks how many times he repeats that this is not a night market for them, but a black one. After which she says that it doesn't matter to her that they should go further, but they shouldn't even think of calling each other by their real names. Then they move on, but at that very moment, a man appears in the middle of the market, and he says he's finally found it. Meanwhile, the main character gathers everyone around her and tells them to listen up. After all, like she said, let them not call each other by their real names, and also let them pull up their hoods and keep them on, because the people there are a bit of a dimwit, so let them be careful. Wayne will keep his distance from them, so this doesn't apply to him. The others can take a look around for now. Edmund will go with her, since the people needed to see her representative in person, to which the boy agrees. And the young lady then turns to the Duke and says that he wanted to send a letter there, to which he replies that this is true. And the main character tells him to send him away and buy everything he needs, because they will meet outside the market in an hour. The young lady also reports that the skinny guy without front teeth is ripping people off, so you need to be careful with him, and also let him beware of little girls in hats singing and pickpockets. And lastly, he shouldn't even think about going after someone who tells him he's handsome and sweet. The man then says, of course, but then, shocked, asks what she meant. The young lady at this time says that then they can go. The Duke understands that only she could say such a thing. Another knight says he's in shock. The Duke then tries to say something, but the blonde insists that this girl clearly has 9 lives, or something like that. How dare she lecture the Duke? And he simply can't grasp it. The brunette, meanwhile, just sighs and thinks it's a good thing the guy didn't notice, after which he suggests that they split up and meet in an hour, and that they try not to reveal themselves, to which they agree. One of the knights then says that the gentleman is acting strange today, and that he is probably not used to such places. The blonde man wonders what they're talking about, and whether they're completely clueless. The wizard then asks what Miller is talking about, after which he asks if he doesn't like being taught, to which the other knight says that it is possible. The blonde man realized that the gentleman had clearly blushed at Rain's words. He sighed and decided he wouldn't talk about it again. A little while later, someone turns to River and asks why he is so gloomy, and is he really sad because he wasn't taken to the black market? The man then asks if he's really talking about him, and Hogan then says that okay, and he believes, after which he asks why he only scratches with the hunter every day, to which he screams that it is because she behaves like an idiot. After which the man sits down next to his colleague and looks at the letters in his hands. He asks if they are from Mrs. Ofeli, to which he replies that it is strange but no. Hogan asks if she hasn't written yet, to which the man replies that she has. These were all bills from the builders or letters from wounded knights sent to the village. But not a single word came from the lady, the governess, or the nanny, so, in short, not a single word came from the duchy. He also asked the messenger, but he replied that all the letters from the capital had been safely delivered. The man then suggested that perhaps something had happened to the messenger from the duchy, since sometimes they fall from their horses. But after this, the man cries out that there are no letters even from Maria, and that she always leaves her letters with the city merchants. And if they didn't write to him, they could have at least written to Sir Miller. Hogan then asks if Maria isn't his wife. But she often writes to Sir Miller on business matters, since he's responsible for the budget. The man then says that it is strange, because she should have written, if not to him, then to Sir Miller. The Duke also apparently sent a letter every time he went to the market. His interlocutor then said he agreed, and if the lady had received them, she would have already sent a reply. After which, the two of them think about it. Could something have happened in the capital? The Duke turns to one of the merchants and claims he wants to send a letter. The woman replies that it will cost 20 silver coins and asks for the address. The man claims that he wants to send a letter to the Duchy of Winterloch, after which the girl is a little surprised, and the Duke asks if there are any problems with this, and replies that there are plenty of them, and they can't deliver letters there yet, and one could even say that no one will undertake to deliver a letter there. She doesn't know why a simple monster hunter would send a letter there. They won't be able to help anyway. After this, the guy immediately heads off somewhere and wonders if something really happened. But he needs to finish his business quickly and return to the capital, so now he is urgently heading to Rain. At this point, the girl says that this is great because the deal is closed, after which she turns to the commander and asks if he saw how it should be done, to which he replies that he understood. And the influence of the young lady is truly great, so in the future he will only sell attributes in this way. The guy also remembers how a young lady put a dagger in front of a merchant and said that from now on he would give a discount to everyone who showed this dagger. The man then asked if she was talking about a representative and if, since things were going well, they had hired a dog. But the girl replies that he is not a dog, because this dagger is her, so she does not advise arguing. The guy just smiles after this and asks how this dagger can be her representative. Well, at that very moment, the main character throws this dagger at the wall near the guy, which makes him turn pale, and the young lady insists she didn't hear and let him repeat it again. The guy immediately jumps up after this, saying that of course they won't treat this dagger as if it were her personally, and the young lady says she likes the way he thinks. The man claims they're glad she liked it. A little while later, the captain and border guards claim that it was a little creepy, and the young lady claims that without this they will constantly fleece, and it is better to show the strength from the very beginning. She also claims that the Duke should have returned by now, but then she sees the guy wrapped up, and she says that their nobleman has returned, but then she also sees another person and asks if that is the color red. At this time, the commander asks Rain if something is wrong, and the girl claims that this is a magician and is interested in Valyan. The man replies that he doesn't know and can't possibly be talking about Lance. The girl replies that no, it's not their Mac, because behind the Duke stands a Mac in a black t-shirt holding a staff with a magic stone. But after that, the guy asks what she is talking about, because there is no one there, which surprises the young lady. And she thinks who it is then. It seems to her that she has already seen this guy somewhere. But then she wonders if this is the same magician from the end of the abyss. But he was definitely not visible. But when Ophelia enters the palace, then this guy appears and starts making some plans with the prince, so the girl thinks that after that the main events will begin. Well, the main character also thinks why she suddenly stumbles upon this jerk there in the cushy, and they're not even the main characters there. After which she says that anything can happen in the world. Well, the girl understands that initially only Ophelia could see him, so she wonders why she sees him too. The girl also asks what to do and thinks about how she should act in the current situation. At this time, the commander asks if the miss is okay, but she only says that Edmund should help. Let him keep people as far away from her as possible now, and if she tries to put anyone from the civilian top into eternal sleep, let him stop her. The young lady claims that it is not difficult, and she relies on him, after which the guy says that he asks one person, what does not difficult mean? And the main character at this time screams that now she needs to sort this out. The girl hopes that everything will be fine. But if she sorts this out now, it will be easier later, but what if she fails? At this time, someone grabs Rain, after which the girl turns around and strikes. A little while later, everyone gathers together, and the blonde asks Sir Sharon what happened to the atmosphere. He replies that he does not know, because he returned with him, after which the guy turns to Wayne and asks what happened there. At this moment, the magician looks at the axe lying near his feet. The young lady turns around and he says he escaped. The blue-haired boy says that Rain suddenly pounced on the wizard, fed up with the emphasis, but luckily she missed. Someone else asks how this is possible, and another replies that he doesn't understand either. At this time, the wizard understands that there was definitely something there and someone used magic, so Rain must know something about it. At this time, the Duke turns to the young lady and says that when they arrive, she should come to him because they need to talk. The wizard then realizes that this is indeed a misunderstanding, and the young lady insists that she too needs to say something. At this time, the crown prince is sitting in his office and examining several precious stones. But at that very moment, knights enter the room and present several daggers to his neck. It turns out it's the emperor. He asks if the guy really thought he could outsmart him. The man also screams that he is planning to cheat, and it is simply ridiculous because nothing will work out for him, so one day he will meet the same fate as him. The guy then only sighs and starts laughing. The blonde then picks up a knife and stabs himself, but then accidentally knocks over a glass of wine, which causes it to fall and break. The guy only takes the 3 crystal balls back into his hand. At that very moment, someone informs His Highness that Athelia Winterlock, the Duke's deputy, is waiting for him in the guest room. The man then tells her to tell her he'll be there soon, after which he looks at the red stones. The protagonist enters the Duke's office and asks what he wanted to discuss at the black market. The young lady thinks he is sullen, and probably puzzled by the fact that she swung an axe at the wizard. It seems that in the original it was said that the wizard has the ability because the closer a strong person is, the stronger he is, but if the person is weak, then he begins to feel some discomfort. Well, it seems she's been thinking for too long, after which the girl claims that there was a misunderstanding and she didn't want to attack Lance. The Duke then says that it was someone else, and the young lady says that it was, but then in shock asks if he saw him too. The brunette replies that no, and he didn't see anyone there, but he knows someone was there. The young lady asks how, after which the Duke claims that she was simply looking at it too closely. He also claims to have thought that no one else can see the magic stones, so it might be something similar this time, and judging by her reaction, that's certainly the case. The main character then asks if this means he didn't invite her to scold him, but the guy simply wonders if she would listen. But in any case, he wants to know what really happened there, and then asks about it. After this, the young lady wonders how much she can tell Clive about everything, since he didn't ask such a difficult question. The girl understands that the main villain of the novel is the one who carries out the orders of the Crown Prince and skillfully manipulates him. He is a powerful, evil magician and ultimately the one who will destroy this country. But the young lady wonders how much she can tell, because for the Duke she is just an ordinary monster hunter. And if she says something, then Clive will begin to suspect her. The Duke, meanwhile, turns to the young lady and tells her to tell him. What was that? The girl, looking at his face, realizes that her heart is pounding. After which, she says that this magician was terribly handsome and dressed all in black. The Duke asks what she's talking about, and the young lady replies that she means that he was all in black, he had a black robe from head to toe, and he was holding a staff similar to the one that Lance has, so it seems that he is a magician. After which, Rain thinks that this is enough and also claims that she does not know where he came from. After all, he just disappeared, like smoke. The guy then asks if she's really talking about Smoke. He also remembers sitting at the bar a little while ago and asking if Leon was okay. The man replied that yes, and at least it was better than just lying in the mansion. He then asked Clive if he was aware of the rumor, after which the boy asked what his interlocutor was talking about. He replied that they said His Highness the Crown Prince was shrouded in black smoke. The Duke then asked if these weren't just empty rumors, since someone must have spread them to undermine the greatness of the royal family. But the man replies that these are not just rumors, because he saw everything with his own eyes and it was terrible. He can't blame Clive for not believing him. But it's true, it sent shivers down my spine when he first saw it. After which, the man with a shaking voice said that he did not know who it was, a man or a monster, but how the smoke slid. At the time, the Duke was simply concerned about his friend's unusual behavior and did not attach much importance to the conversation, until he realized that this was their last conversation, because black smoke, according to rumors, enveloped the Crown Prince, and also a friend who encountered this black smoke, and Clive forced to go to the border because of a friend's funeral. It was only a matter of time before it became clear what the cause and effect connection was between these events, and if it was the same thing Ella was talking about. Then it was undoubtedly His Highness who sent that smoke to the black market, and his goal was his life. Now Clive clutches his neck and understands that this is a ridiculous act, because as a duke he tried to protect his family and country all his life and, of course, considered this his duty, as well as the meaning of his entire existence. But ultimately, he cannot protect either his country or his family, and his life is in danger. He also remembers how his friend said that no matter how hard he tried, no one would save this country. Meanwhile, someone else approaches Clive. It turns out to be the main character, and she wonders if she said something wrong. The brunette replies no and apologizes. The young lady says he doesn't need to apologize, and asks why he was so shocked. And maybe he knows this magician. After which the man clenches his fists, and the young lady understands that it looks like he does. But if he knows who it is, then he probably also guesses that the Crown Prince is behind what happened, so it's not surprising that he's in shock. The guy at this time apologizes for calling her so late, and claims that he wanted to ask her only about this so now she can go. Well, the main character replies that no, and she also has something to say because she wanted to wait until tomorrow so as not to spoil the atmosphere. But it is urgent, because people's lives are at stake, after which the young lady claims that she will go to the capital. The brunette is surprised by this and asks where she is going, to which she again replies that she is going to the capital. The girl asks if this is a place where monster hunters can't get to, and she has already heard about this, because monster hunters belong to the poor conditions of society, so they are not allowed to enter the capital, where the royal palace is located. She roughly understands why they think this way, because when they see how they cut up disgusting and stinking monsters for food, and they dig through their inanimate bodies in search of something useful, and it may seem too cruel, but isn't it funny? After all, they receive a fair reward for honest work, and as long as it's used for its intended purpose, it's still money. However, hunters are still treated poorly, and besides, it's the capital's residents who use the materials obtained from monsters. The blonde also says that she always thought the reason for the discrimination was too absurd, and perhaps this is what they call discrimination. The brunette then apologizes to Rain and says he was stupid, but the young lady says that it was not he who made such laws, but that the boys answer that it is true, but he should not have said so, especially after he received so much help from her and the other hunters. So he sincerely apologizes, because it was stupid of him. People respond that she never thought getting to the capital would be easy. However, she has business there, so she must get there. The guy asks if she really has business. After which the main character says that she absolutely needs to finish off the mage, which makes the man cough. The main character asks what's wrong with him, since she didn't say anything out of the ordinary, but he says it's not that bad, it's just that no one usually expresses themselves that way. A little while later, His Highness announces that the boy has finally arrived. The young lady says the capital is full of mages, so they must know where he's headed, and then she'll chop his head off with an axe or a pot. And, frankly, if it weren't for Lance, she would have chopped his head off with an axe, and that would have shown whether a physical attack would work against him or not. In any case, she chose the wrong moment. At this time, the brunette wonders if she really wants to plunge the magician into eternal sleep, but then says that this is nonsense. However, then he wonders if the girl hasn't already achieved everything that was previously considered impossible, and if it is Rain, then everything can be possible. The young lady at this time says that it doesn't matter even if he can't take her to the capital, because she always makes her plans come true. The guy replies that of course and he knows about it, after which he realizes that this is not the end, After all, they don't have to part yet, after which he hands the lady a paper and offers to go to the capital. He also understands that this fact alone calms him down. His Highness, a little while later, says that the boy has finally arrived. The man in the robe says that he must have good news since he is smiling from ear to ear, to which the guy replies that he definitely does. After all, Ophelia had come to him last night of her own free will. She was in terrible condition due to nightmares, so he introduced her to a doctor and maids so she could get better. The man in the black robe asks if he's talking about the doctor, which is funny since the prince is the source of all her problems. The guy replies that's exactly why he's treating her, because thanks to him, Ophelia will soon recover. The blonde also says what a boring reaction this is, and then says okay, after which he asks who is helping the Duke, and whether it is the Marchioness Cecilia Lennon, or the Viscount Ingray, or maybe one of his father's old soldiers. But the man in the robe claims that none of them were there, after which the blonde is surprised and asks what he is talking about. His interlocutor replies that only Clive Winterlock and the Winter Knights were there. But the blonde man tells his interlocutor not to lie, and wonders if that's all he can tell him after using so many magical stones. The robed man replies that no matter how many times His Highness asks, he will only tell him what he saw with his own eyes. After all, there was no one there except him. After which the guy throws the vase away altogether. He also cries out what kind of curse it was and how he managed to survive. At this point, the wizard remembers the main character, and he thinks that it was probably because of her that the Duke was able to survive, and what's more, she was able to see him even without using detection magic. Until now, only one person could do this, so he needs to find out about this woman. At this time, the main character is in the Duke's office, and he claims that, to begin with, they will send several knights to study the situation in the capital. If we combine what she saw and heard, something should come out. To which the young lady replies, yes. After which she also says that they need to find out how Ophelia is. The Duke notes that, of course, that needs to be found out too. After which he notices something else and tells the girl to wait, and also asks if he told her about Ophelia. The young lady then replies that she overheard the knights' conversation, as they were worried that Lady Ophelia was alone in the capital, and that's what they were saying. The young lady realizes it was a bit dangerous, as she almost said something she shouldn't have. After which the girl says that in any case, they can finish with the encyclopedia for now and go upstairs. The man replies that she's worked hard, so she should go and rest. The young lady agrees, and the Duke then says that they need to find a way for the hunters to get to the capital, but the young lady replies that she doesn't think that's necessary. After which the brunette asks if she really has an idea, to which the girl replies that she does, and wonders what's so difficult about it. After all, they'll catch a passerby and have a heartfelt conversation with him, even lending him a pass. And then they'll be even more sincere with the castle guard. After that, the brunette insists he'll definitely find another way out. A little while later, River comes into the Duke's office and says that the gentleman has been busy since early morning. Well, when he sees the state the guy is in, he asks if he hasn't gone to bed yet, to which he replies that yes, and he has too much work. The Knight Commander says that he should have been woken up, but the boy replies that no, and that he has another request for him. After all, he wants him to lead the knights tomorrow and return to the capital first. So the man, shocked, asks why so suddenly, and the Duke replies that he himself knows that the situation in the capital is currently very tense, and the collection is almost ready, so it would be good to study the situation as soon as possible. The man says that's true, and then he'll immediately gather knights to go with him, choosing the young ones if possible. Clive says fine, and in the meantime he'll finish the paperwork. And he would also like the commander to look at this, after which the man asks what else it is. The brunette replies that it is a contract, after which the commander shouts out what kind of contract it is. The Duke replies that he composed it today at dawn, together with Rain, and decided to take her with him to the capital. The man is surprised and asks why he did that. The knights on the street then wonder if someone just yelled, but the other one replies that it doesn't matter now, because Rain will be out soon and he definitely needs to find out. What did she talk about with the Duke last night? After which the guy actually sees the girl and is going to greet her, but when they see what a bad mood she is in, she just hides behind another knight. He also says that he thinks it would be better for him not to ask anything, and his interlocutor replies that it looks like that. At this time, the main character sits down and says that she has a splitting headache. Haojin also turns to her and says that news has already reached him. The young lady asks if he has already heard. It's incredible. But the man is interested in how she copes at all, because if the commander of the night starts to be rude to her, then she should immediately tell him. After which the guy also asks how much torment she's been through that even her face is so badly damaged. The girl replies that she won't survive, she just doesn't get enough sleep. After which she also claims that it is because of anxiety, and the man asks if she is worried about punishment and whether she is worried about the fact that she is facing punishment for breaking the magician's head. The young lady replies that she was actually going to deal with another guy, and Max simply intervened, and besides, his head is still there. And the Duke wasn't even angry with her, so there's no question of him acting. Wayne then asks if this is really the case. He thought that she was kicked out of the nightly squad, but then he asks why the lady has such a face. The protagonist simply asks what he means by that. The young lady then replies that she doesn't know what he means, but she simply didn't sleep well last night. And you can't even sleep from excitement. But at that very moment, someone runs up to her, and he screams, "Why the hell is the girl going to the Capitol?" The blonde replies that she was talking about important things, and he just interrupted her. After which the commander asks if this means she is going to the Capitol and if she is really going to do what she mentioned earlier, and also to cut the crown prince. The young lady says almost, but not quite. After which one of the knights says that he thinks they should also listen to the opinions of the Capitol's residents. At this time, the Duke is in his office and understands that the letter is finished, since now only official documents remain. He also recalls how a girl at the black market said that there were a lot of problems, and at the moment they could not deliver a letter there, and not only they, but also anyone else. Now the brunette is thinking what an idiot he is, because if the magician that Rain saw really is close to His Highness, then it is unknown what will happen to the knights. He also recalls how the commander of the knights said that this was impossible, because even if it was the crown prince himself, they had no reason to prevent the entry of knights who had completed their mission. So said the commander, well, they came up with an excuse to cross the border, and surely they can handle it. After which he also thinks that as long as everyone is safe, the Duke also turns to the window and sees the main character, after which he thinks that this is truly amazing. After all, the girl said so easily that she would deal with this magician, but then he also remembers how she said that he was terribly handsome in black, and then he wonders if this mage is really that handsome. A little while later, someone at a meeting says they've already been dismissed 3 times. Then he asks what's wrong with this previously diligent man that he's acting like this. But another aristocrat then tells him to be quiet and wonders if the rumors haven't reached him yet. Rumor has it that it was Athelia Winterlock herself who visited the imperial palace. She seems to have completely lost her mind, awaiting news of her brother, and the crown prince is personally caring for her. Someone else wonders if the Duke has truly fallen into eternal slumber. But another asserts that if the news were to surface, the other side would immediately try to seize control of the estate, which is why the Winterlock estate is trying to suppress rumors. Someone else claims that the estate probably hopes that Ophelia Winterlock will come to her senses, but who knows? At the same moment, the Marquise rises from the table and heads towards the door, after which someone asks if she is already leaving. One of them says it's downright creepy, while the other says there's nothing you can do about it. A little while later, the woman is already sitting at a table with someone, and says that it looks like Ophelia Winterlock has fallen under the wing of the crown prince. The woman also says she feels very sorry for her, and how he never even saw her. Meanwhile, the guy comments on how exquisite the tea is, but the woman replies that it is alcohol, after which the guy immediately spits it out. And the Marquise claims that, due to the current situation in the country, it is simply impossible to stay sober. It's unclear where the crown prince is and what he's doing, never showing himself to people, and that black smoke, or whatever it was, is all shrouded in mystery, so one even has to consider whether it's worth attracting more allies. The woman also asks the guy if he found what she asked for. He replies that yes, after which he points to the map and claims that he was able to follow this place, but then the trail gets lost at the western border, and it appears the huntress has changed her name. The only known attributes are her blonde hair, tall stature, and rude behavior toward others. However, finding someone with such characteristics is not an easy task, but if they expand the search area to neighboring villages, then he thinks that they will be able to find her quickly. The Marquise understands that things are also taking a strange turn with the Duke, and his affairs, of course, do not concern her. After which the woman tells the guy that he did a good job, and considering that it was not easy to find out about the events of 3 years ago, but the result is not bad, and she claims that the guy really deserves the fame of an informant. She also tells him to continue monitoring and report back immediately if any new information emerges. After all, this girl is the only hope for this rotten empire. The main character stands with Wayne at this time, and he says how strange it is, after which the girl asks what exactly. The young man replies that people from neighboring villages have come, and they probably want to ask for help again because of the monster invasion. The main character asks what is it about this century that usually happens once or twice a month, after which the guy says that for sure, because she was always hunting and didn't know, because this is already the 5th request for help in a week. The girl is surprised after this and asks what kind of monsters have appeared there. To which the guy replies that there was a Debo in the 1st village, and Trister in the 2nd and 3rd. In the 4th, there was Adili, and over 100 of them descended upon it. The merchant, who miraculously escaped, reported the attack, and the knights hastily set out for that village. The guy then turns to the young lady, and she is shocked, and wonders if they themselves could have so brazenly invaded the village. Well, she still wonders what kind of feeling of déjà vu this is. At this point, someone else approaches the young lady and asks if she's okay, after which she asks if Clive has arrived. He merely says she had that look in her eye. The young lady replies that she was just lost in thought for a moment, and that it was nothing out of the ordinary. After which she suggests that they hurry in any case, because they only have to catch one and they need to go to the capital as soon as possible. To which the guy agrees, after which they move on. Wayne wishes the two good luck, then turns to one of the knights and asks what kind of monster it is this time. He replies that they say there are as many as 5 quarry, which shocks the knight, after which he wonders what's going on there. After receiving permission to go to the capital, Rain and Clive set out to hunt for the last monster in the reference book. But a little while later, the girl realizes that it's already the 3rd day, and wonders where this creature disappeared to. After which she even screams that Peleg is not some kind of mythical monster, because he is only level 3, so she thinks why then he is nowhere to be seen and there is only one left, so where could he have gone? The girl then screams out that it says the monster is the height of 2 people, and its footsteps can be heard from afar. It's pure white and emits a terrible stench. Its roar is so eerie that it stands out even among other monsters. The girl then says that it is like looking for a banana boat in the middle of a sandy beach, and it is not surprising that on the way there they did not meet other monsters, but she did not think that she would disappear because they went around all the caves. After which the girl asks if she was really the last one. The Duke replies that, yes, there are no more caves left, and the young lady says that this could drive one crazy, and also wonders if this is even possible, since even if they all left together, at least someone should have stayed. The man replies that even if they had left, they would have gathered somewhere nearby, since Pelegs are famous for never leaving their chosen location. The young lady thinks this is true, and that this monster really is known for never leaving its lair, meaning there aren't any left. The young lady also suggests summing up the results and asks whether it turns out that the monsters deviated from the characteristics described in the reference book. But this means that something given in it is inaccurate. The brunette then adds that something so serious must have happened that it caused such a change, and it's one of 2 things. The young lady then realizes that something is definitely fishy, as poppy seeds have recently appeared on the black market, and contact with Ophelia has been lost, and there's still no sign of the captain who recently departed for the capital. Monsters are attacking villages, and Peligi has disappeared. All this means the plot unfolds regardless of whether Kaive is alive or not. The girl also thinks the story is unfolding faster than she expected, and it is obvious that after the news that the guy was alive, they clearly began to rush. Then the young lady turns to the guy and says that they need to get to the capital as quickly as possible because they have little time left, but at that moment the girl sees several monsters in the sky. And the Duke says she's right, because those monsters are heading straight for the capital. A little while later, Wayne turns to another knight, but he insists he asked to be called Rosalie, and then asks if something has happened. The guy replies that it's nothing, and asks if he's waiting for someone, since he just keeps staring at the entrance. The guy then says that he is, and it seems he was waiting unconsciously. The guy with blue hair asks what. His interlocutor replies that the commander-in-chief should have sent news from the capital, but so far there's been silence. Wayne asks if this is really supposed to happen already, and shouldn't the journey take at least 10 days. He also heard that the journey there took a long time for their squad, but the knight claims that back then they stopped in a village on the way and had problems with monsters. But now not many knights went with him, so the journey should have taken about 5 days. Wayne asks if that's really the case, after which he says that the capital is simply closer than he thought, and he suddenly became interested in what it's like, because he had never thought about it before. And it's a little strange. He also finds it difficult to imagine that in 5 days of travel one can reach the city without encountering monsters, and then he asks what kind of capital this is, and whether it is true that it is as luxurious as they say, and the most luxurious place he has visited was Baron Barkham's estate. So he wonders if things are even better in the capital. Sharon remains silent after this, and Wayne addresses him, breaking him out of his thoughts. After which the guy claims that he will see it himself when he goes there. Hey, the guy with blue hair says that Rain, who lives for today, can do this, but for him, this will probably never be possible. But his interlocutor replies that no, and the guy himself will tell him what the capital looks like, after which Wayne agrees.